Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. Hi, Jack. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. Everyone, sorry about this weird transitional setup. We're going to get another better one soon. I got some books behind me, including a book, two of my mom's books. My mom's a writer. She'll come on the show soon. Yeah. And how's the sound? Is my sound okay?
I think it's better than ever with the new Samson mic working properly.
Yeah, that's good. Why is it showing us that there are 0 people here? I know that ain't true. Why did I just say that ain't true? That is so corny.
Let's start saying ain't in 2021.
Oh, well, I mean,
Let's start saying ain't.
We already started. Remember our commitment to remember what we do every week?
What is it? That ain't right or something?
That ain't it, Chief.
That ain't it. That ain't it, Chief. Yeah, as far as the things
that
are
already,
that is ain't it.
That ain't it, yeah.
That ain't not it.
Yeah, that just ain't it. I am, where are my people are asking? I'll tell you where I am. I'm in the same room I was before. I just reconfigured it. And then I'm going to reconfigure it again. But guys, I'm in a bad mood.
Oh, no.
First of all, welcome to the show again. And we have a great lineup for you today. We're going to have, just confirmed for later on in the show, we got Aaron Mate. In fact, let me just share the old link. But here's our star. Ready? Our star for right now. Or soon to be star, or she's already a star, but she will be coming into the show soon. Is Natalia VIana, who is a journalist, and she's incredibly, I can't believe she's not like 100 years old at least, because she's very accomplished. And she started a public agency, or agência pública. You like my, that's my Brazilian Portuguese accent.
Right, yeah, that's good. You know, you kind of, right? A little more nasal, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I have a leg up, I guess, because nasal, I kind of have a nasal orientation, if you will.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Since I own that, you can say, yeah, you do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if that's what you're saying, you know, right. I can echo
who
it.
Are you yeah, exactly. You can amplify.
Yeah.
Who are you to invisibilize, or I don't know, what would the word be?
I mean, you know, choose. I don't know, invisible.
You're not going to mansplain my.
Yeah.
My.
Who am I to man? Who am I to man visibilize your voice like that?
Yeah,
to man visibilize your voice like that.
Yeah. Who are you to do that? So, what's up, comrades? Say ain't in a Russian accent. Ain't. Guys, Leslie, I wish Leslie were here because he would say don't accept that kind of stuff without a donation.
Yes, that's right. You know, that's right.
That's a very specific request from me. Everyone share this link. Everyone take a second to share, to subscribe. We're going to be very excited about Natalia VIana. Again, amazing journalist, incredibly prolific. So, you know what? I'm going to just do an updated tweet about this. Oh, man, I forgot. Maria, if you do an Instagram about it, I'll share it. Could you do that? I'm just going to say we just added Aaron Mate to the lineup. Just added to the lineup for tonight. Aaron Mate. The inimitable. That's what I love that. That's what
the inimitable, yeah.
Term, right?
Inimitable is the right thing to say about someone who's a guest on a show, because you're like, nobody can even imitate this person. I can only get the real guy.
Yeah.
Got to get the real guy.
Yeah, and in fact, you know what's interesting is that's not to brag, but you know who called me inimitable the other day?
Who's that?
David Dayan. I should put that on my
in my you should put in your bio inimitable, and then just inimitable in quotes, and then say, you know, from D Dayan. You know,
I know. Look at you, all up on his handle. Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, like, you know, I was trying to help you. You know, craft the bio here. You know what I mean?
I know, we got to craft it. Yeah.
You know, my new thing, and this is what I'm trying to finally litigate, is should there be pineapple on pizza? You know, they've talked about it every once in a while on Twitter, and I think it's finally time. We're in 2021. Let's get back to this and start talking about it again. Should we have pineapple on pizza?
You know, this is the type of thing I should offer Patreon access to. Like, if you are a Patreon supporter of the show, you get to vote in this and really to partake in these hot takes.
Well, this is what the discourse is all about. We're going back to Biden culture. So, Twitter should get back to Twitter should just get back to, is a hot dog a taco and is pineapple a pizza? Is that okay?
I think pizza, I mean, I don't love it, but here's what I'm going to say. That's part of freedom. That's part of America, is that you don't have to like something to allow it to happen. I don't particularly like pineapple on pizza, but who am I to say no pineapple? I mean,
exactly. There's so many busybodies out there who are like, just, ew, that's gross to me. You know what? Yeah. Eat a different pizza.
Eat a different pizza. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm so offended by feta that it disgusts me so much. So I just did something somewhat dishonest where I pretended to be more tolerant than I was. My tolerance for pineapple is really based on the fact that I don't think it's that disgusting. But even then, even though I find feta actually an offense, I think feta is violence.
Yeah.
Feta is violence for me. In feta, blue cheese, and goat cheese even are violence for me. In my mouth, they're violence. I feel like my mouth is totally
so you don't like you just don't like a sort of strong, soft
stinky
cheese. You don't like a stinky soft cheese is really what it is. For me, the olive can ruin a pizza. If there's olives, and I know that's a typical thing that everybody loves on pizza. And so, I'm not out there saying like, get the olive off the pizza. That's disgusting.
You're not an olive authoritarian.
No, I'm not an authoritarian. Let everybody have what they want to have.
Yeah, you're right.
The feta is good though to me. I do like I like a sour and soft cheese.
I mean, it just tastes like feet or vomit. Is how I met. Oh, Lisa Mojica is coming in with now this is something that there's no debate over. Cilantro is actually, poor Lisa, you are afflicted by cilantro phobia,
sadly,
which is a thing. Like, you don't have a choice in that. You do not have
you're born with it tasting like a nice little bit of, it's true. You're born either with it tasting like a nice little bit of spice or like soap.
Yeah. And I wonder, are there other things like that?
I mean, Katie, if you really want to get philosophical, how do we know that anything even, tastes the same to other people?
Yeah,
what if yours, not to get too, stoned out, dude, but we don't know that your sweet is my savory, that's
I know that is really weird. That is really weird.
Weird?
Isn't that weird? Oh, isn't that weird?
We're talking about the important stuff now in 2021. This is what I'm talking about, is we're back to the important stuff. Pineapple on pizza,
Lisa, I want to thank Lisa for Silent No More. You guys are a thing. And you shouldn't be, don't feel guilty. You shared I don't want to be ableist. And so I'm embracing your inability to taste the beauty of cilantro.
Cilantro's good.
Cilantro's
good, but it's, I understand that for some, it just doesn't taste that way. That's very sad. That's very sad.
Yeah, it is sad. You'll never know. Yeah. Imagine not having.
Actually, is
some
good.
People don't have a sense of. Oh my God! I'm a super taster. Salmon tastes like I'm sucking on a penny. Okay, wow. Are there other things? So there's salmon. There's cilantro. What else is there? I really want to amplify the super taster voices. I mean, I find it a little niche and a little inappropriate because you guys, for me, are the kind of what's the opposite of the what would that be? The lower. What would the opposite of super be?
The I guess
Uber bad. Is Uber mensch is Uber is high, right? Come on.
I don't know. Super minor, mini, the mini taster.
Mini taster, yeah.
Mini taster. The micro taster.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, we got a super chat. Speaking of super tasters, Katie asked Jack about the situation Cayo Perico. Perico, what is this?
It's a video game island in Grand Theft Auto, and BoJack Productions is trying to, he's trying to make me look like a fool because I've been playing a lot of the Grand Theft Auto video game. And if you really want to know, Katie, that El Rubio, the guy who runs the island, is getting a lot of heists done to him by the people who play GTA, like me.
A lot of what done to him?
Heists. We're doing heists on the island.
Okay, got it. Island heists. Okay. Well, I mean, that someone had to do it, and it was going to be you.
Well, BoJack Productions God bless you. You put in the $5.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we really appreciate that. Bo Jackson, isn't that an athlete? Isn't he an athlete?
BoJack Productions. I'm sorry.
Oh, BoJack. Okay,
you might be thinking of BoJack Horseman.
No, I'm thinking of Bo Jackson,
was there a
the
Bo
guy
Jackson?
who runs up stairs in commercials. No one knows what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Anyway, so Grand Theft Auto, I think, is a pretty problem. Isn't it a problematic game?
You know,
like encourages violence against sex workers, not that people who
I would disagree with that, but it is, an edgy game with cuss words in it and stuff like that. I don't think that any video game encourages anything with anyone, really. Okay. It encourages people to stay home and not get work done and stuff. So,
well, maybe it's actually a positive good during the era of COVID.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna request that the people in the back end of this chat, if they could shut off their cameras. Sorry, I get so distracted, as everyone knows. We had an interesting thing with that last time, which will be available in part to Patreon only people. But yeah, I get very distracted. And then to be fair, I'm just going to close out of the chat. Now, Natalia, our guest, we're running a little late. How is it if we bring you in like 20? Is that okay? Can you hear me? Can you nod or type? I can see you, so you can just nod. Okay, sure. Okay, great. But please watch the show from, it's very exciting to get to watch the show from the green room, if you will. Oh, we're at 400. Great. Okay, so here's the deal. You want to know why I'm in a bad mood?
Yeah.
First of all, Merry Christmas. Do we have a show since Christmas? No, right?
We haven't had a show since Christmas. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
I know that you celebrate.
I do. Yep. I definitely do. We celebrate. We are Christmas tree Jews. Also, it's like he's one of the biggest Jews out there, Jesus Christ.
And Santa too, perhaps.
I mean, why do we think that?
I don't know. I mean, like, why not, I guess.
Right.
Why not? I don't know.
Santa is a why not Jew.
Is there any reason why Santa's not Jewish?
No, and in fact, I like that because it's the opposite of the stereotype of being stingy and stealing. Yeah. It's the opposite. It's generosity.
Hanukkah usually doesn't fall on Christmas, so Santa could theoretically celebrate Hanukkah and then also do the whole Christmas thing.
That's very true.
Why not? I'm just saying there's not proof. There's not. Right. It's not dispositive. You know what I mean? It's not dispositive.
We're gonna call that a why not Jew.
Yeah, why not Jew?
A WNJ. And happy Kwanzaa, and we're going to get into that later on in the show. We can have a debate over whether or not someone celebrated it. In fact, I'm trying to get confirmation about trying to see if someone will come on the show to give us his hot take about that. Let me just do a little follow-up and nudging. All right, so let's go and watch some clips, and then we're going to bring on our guest. I got to share the Insta, but that's not what I was doing. Google Slides. All right. So we're going to watch a clip. And that clip is the following. And just before I forget, we got to clip your really good, your really important Aaron Rupert segment, which is really good.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, let me just do a share screen. So we're going to return to friend of show, Mark Warner. People may know about him. Very bad guy. And wait, did I do the audio thing? Very bad guy who, oh, great. It looks great. I just need to make sure that I did the audio thing. Very bad guy who I kissed on the cheek at Netroots Nation. Did I tell you that part last time?
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right. Can everyone see this and hear it? Well, I haven't played it yet, but can everyone see it?
Let's say, yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. And shout out again, as always, to Case Study OB.
Yeah, there's millions of people who have actually gone into poverty over these past several months because of the coronavirus pandemic. But are you saying that the Democratic leadership in the House failed before the election? They should have accepted what Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, was proposing, $1.8 trillion?
I'm saying that neither side, or I think a host of political reasons, really we're all into getting a deal done before the election. And I'm saying that
That is true.
A bipartisan group of senators, and for that matter, 50 members of the House and the so-called Problem Solvers Caucus said, we cannot sit idly by while people's lives are destroyed from the economic nature of COVID, as well as the healthcare issue. We can't allow, literally hundreds of thousands of Black-owned businesses have shut down. We can't allow that kind of economic destruction.
Actually, all right, no, that's a good point. Actually,
so we said we're not going to wait for the folks, the so-called leaders to decide. We're going to put out a plan. We put out that plan. We found wide bipartisan support. The folks on the extremes, far left and far right, who never want to get to yes, they will have some problems.
Okay, guys, this is a talking point. Someone needs to keep a list. I guess I should do that.
Look at that freeze frame you got there.
It's like God makes me believe in God. Because God is throwing pixelated, glitchy shade on Mark Warner.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. But the whole false equivalency. Hey, actually, false equivalency, like saying you need to explain that you're not working for Putin on the one hand and needing to be more nuanced on the other. That's a false equivalency, as is equating the left and the right. And people love kind of, again, like otherizing people like Bernie Sanders by pretending he's the equal but opposite of, or no, he is he's the opposite, that's for sure. But they pretend that, they'll pretend that being a left version of the Tea Party is bad when no, that is an effective thing to do. Like, do you want to be effective but on the left, or do you want to just be a moderate?
Right.
Well, we know they want to be moderates, but anyway, okay.
But the vast majority of us, and I think you'll see that vast majority vote in overwhelming numbers, both in the House and later tonight in the Senate, to get that relief out.
Yeah, it's so important because there's so many Americans. Hard to believe in our country, the richest country of the world, so many Americans right now, millions, are actually food hungry. They don't have enough food to feed their kids, and they're worried about getting kicked out of their homes and becoming homeless. Hard to believe, and I'm grateful to you and your colleagues for doing what you're doing. Not perfect, but you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as I keep on saying. Let me quickly get
another talking point. Okay, so that's another talking point.
I know, but that is at least Wolf is like the only person who's out there. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. But Wolf Blitzer is the only person who's actually pushing like elected Democrats on like, can you please get some fucking money in people's pockets? Right. What a pathetic situation we're in. Where
he's the voice of the
who sucks. Yeah, is the voice of the left.
He's the voice of. He's not even. I mean, he's the voice of people.
He's the voice of people who are like in desperate, like
he's the voice of people who are. I mean, it's like honestly, it's like people are going hungry in a way that the rest of the media doesn't.
And I feel like Wolf just understands that it's like good television. You know what I mean? I think he just understands that he's like, well, you have to ask these. He's like a classic media guy, and he's like, well, you got to ask them because a lot of people are suffering or whatever. And I'm like, the rest of them, I don't know what the hell is happening. Really, like the news has just become like chat shows now. Really.
Yeah, well, shout out to Talwaz for this insight. Wolf is going to become an anarchist. One can hope. And again, we're not praising Wolf. We're condemning everyone else. Right?
That Wolf is the only person talking about this is absolutely pathetic.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's check out the next stream, and this is kind of one of my favorite people, basically on Earth. I mean, this is Larry Summers.
Larry Summers,
and he makes some interesting points.
$2,000 checks make much sense.
Oh man,
the real issue is going to be sustaining this expansion. You think about it, the 908 stimulus bill.
Remember, he was Obama's.
I can't believe that it's him again.
I know
it's him. They're trotting out him again.
Yeah, I want Geithner. I won't be happy until Geithner joins.
I can't believe it, Katie. That they let Trump do this. Like now they're all out there. Like, okay, Trump said, let's make it 2,000, right? They had all been out arguing for 600. Like they had all been out trying to sell 600. Like even AOC, everybody was trying to sell 600. Then Trump comes out and he's like, let's make it 2,000. They all like embarrassingly, it's good, of course, but they fall over themselves to like try to work with him to get the 2,000 done. We're not going to get 2,000. It's only going to be 600 under Biden. And now we're going to get all the same ghouls coming out, Democrats, saying like all the austerity ghouls coming out saying the same shit. I'm like, man, I can't believe like Trump actually did fuck them up so bad with this like last move before leaving office. Like it's just pathetic.
And it's austerity ghoulery without the resistance, basically.
Yeah. Terrible.
Right? Trump did this,
and it's the same fucking thing. I can't believe it happened again. Like we're in the exact same position as we were like when Barack Obama beat John McCain. Is like we have the same people coming into DC again to run another like financial recession.
Well,
it's really bad.
At least Rahm didn't come in. That's one thing, but it's pretty pathetic that instead we got Mayo Pete. And everyone should check out the last stream we did because what a ghoul he is. And you know, sometimes we forget because he's such a nerd and he's so smug that it's almost like we think of him as just like an annoying hall monitor, but he's
fun to make fun. He's fun to make fun of, and so you kind of like are like, oh, he's like just like stupid. No, he truly is an evil, like cynical, like ghoul, who like has come to now national prominence on like the backs of black and brown people, pretty much on the bones of black and brown people.
Yeah. Including 11-year-old Tristan Moore, who I can't believe we don't even know this guy. I mean, I can't believe his name isn't out there. This 11-year-old boy who was black, who was run over by a car thanks to Mayor Pete's Smart Street program, which determined that certain areas did not have the traffic to warrant traffic lights. So they put bags over the traffic lights. And then was killed.
To like save electricity or something?
To make it more bicycle pedestrian friendly. But it's pretty like it's a kind of yuppie move, like lethal green,
fucking gentrifying, lethal gentrifying. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like
green gentrification. That's what it is.
Like let's make it nice for the bikes or whatever. Meanwhile,
kill a kid or two. In the meantime, Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that. I gave it away. Don't look. Okay, let's finish this clip.
I don't think the level of compensation is running about $30 billion a month below what we would have expected it would. GDP is running about $70 billion a month.
Really nice mirrors behind him.
Expected it would. So in a way,
why is this man doing this like that?
Stimulus already much more than filling out the hole.
It's too much already.
Lots of the hole is from the fact not that people don't want to spend, but that they can't spend because they can't take a flight or they can't go to a restaurant.
They have the money, right? It's not that they don't have the money; they don't have places to spend it. Yeah, it's a good point.
I honestly am like, I look at this man and I'm like, why the hell are you still doing this? You're this old man. You're in a nice house. Why the fuck are you on TV trying to tell people they shouldn't get $2,000? Why? Why are you doing this? Like, why? When is it enough? You know what I mean? What the hell?
When is your ghoulery enough? Your ghoulery cup runneth over. Also, I'm sorry, but like, what's that door? He looks like he's in a school, like a classroom.
I mean, I will say I do love. I mean, I don't love coronavirus, but it's one of the things I like about 2020 is that all these people who like have only ever appeared at like podiums and like in good lighting with flags behind them. Now we get to see them in their like shitty homes with shitty lighting and like they look pale and old. Like I like that at the very least.
Yeah,
you know?
They're no longer just in front of podia or on network.
Right, exactly. Cable network news with like sets and lights on them. Like we're seeing Larry Summers with a bad angle like going up his nose and the door cocked like to the side.
It really does look like he's been kidnapped and like been put in a classroom and allowed to decorate it.
It's like, what the hell are you doing? Why? This is a man. How old is this person? Larry Summers.
I mean, he could be a good guy and
66 years old. He's 60. Well, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying. Of course, you can be a good person and be that age. I'm just like, why don't you fucking retire? You're 66 years old and you're trying to be like, poor people shouldn't have money. Like, go spend time with your fucking grandchildren.
Imagine this. This is like,
why are you doing this?
Remember, Fox News said, don't give them more money because you know, now that they can't spend it on restaurants and bars, they're going to have a lot of extra cash because all these people have been
right.
Everyone's been employed this whole time.
Rent is free. Rent is free.
Rent is free under COVID. Yeah.
Rent is free under COVID.
Sorry. Again, makes me believe in God. God's trying to show him up. Oh my God, stop it.
There he is.
All right. I just got to finish. All right. This is a very kind of organic.
Quite unprecedented. We have stimulus already.
Too much stimulus.
People don't want to spend.
Right.
But that they can't spend.
They just don't have the opportunity.
They can't get out there. The stores are closed. Get the stores open.
They are just burning. They're burning their cash.
Priority should be on promoting consumer spending beyond where we are now. So
beyond, it's too much.
I'm so enthusiastic about the $600 checks.
Yeah, fuck that. That's already frivolous.
That's too much even to begin with.
Too much, yeah.
What we need to do is open the stores so people can get out and spend all the money they've been saving up.
Exactly.
Get Best Buy open so people can buy some fucking PlayStations already.
Yeah, exactly. People are just sitting there wanting to spend their money that they're hoarding, and they just need an outlet.
And I think taking them to $2,000 would actually be a pretty serious mistake that would risk a temporary overheat. I would like to see more.
Oh, wow. An overheat of the economy?
Yeah,
by the way,
I know.
I've read even the bad neoliberal books about economics. That doesn't even make sense in the made up fake economics world. The overheating the economy. Yeah. What the hell are you talking about? Are you talking about
the overheating?
You're telling me that the economy is gonna get too good because people are gonna go out and spend
it's gonna get
$1,000. I actually am I truly, even if I put aside that I'm a leftist and I've and not a American capitalist and everything. If I just was going back to what I learned about economics in high school and it's in I'm an acolyte of Keynesian economics or whatever, I would still be what the fuck are you talking about? It risks overheating the economy.
Yeah.
Governments, I would like to see more money put into testing. More money put into accelerating vaccines.
Oh.
Gosh, David, I think it would be a real mistake to be going to $2,000.
Oof.
And
why?
They just don't know what to do with that money. It would be okay. Here. Wait, listen to this. Ready? This is overheat. But listen to this. This is very important. Okay, we're going to hear this beloved talking point. Ready?
$1,000, and I have to say that when you see the two extremes agreeing, you can almost be certain that something crazy is in the air. And so when I see a coalition of Josh Hawley, Bernie Sanders, and Donald Trump getting behind an idea, I think that's time to run for cover.
Yes. So again, that's another talking point. Ready? Why on earth, Bernie, would you be doing something with Josh Hawley? Halsey. Holly?
Right. Holly. Yeah. And the answer is that Bernie, his entire career, has worked with people on the right, on individual issues where they can find room to work together. Yeah. And whenever anybody talks about fucking Congress, never get anything done. Right. This is kind of why, if you're upset about gridlock, you can't both be upset that Congress is gridlocked and also say fuck Bernie for working with Josh Hawley.
Right. And also say Bernie can't get anything done.
Right.
That's it. But also, it's a knock on Democrats that there aren't more Democrats doing this, and you have to find someone like Hawley. Now,
honestly, as a joke, and I'm not being serious about this, and this is a comedy show, but watching this clip of Larry Summers, it is you feel like someone should kill him, and I just mean that as a joke, obviously. As a joke and as a heightened joke, as a conceit, and just a thought. You know what I mean? Watching this,
just spitballing here.
I'm spitballing just a bit that I'm working out. It didn't really fly, but just a bit I'm working.
You don't know. People may be in stitches in the audience. We can't see hate him. But again, here's his point. You got to look at the company someone keeps, right? Am I right? Isn't that what he's saying? If you have an idea and it's shared by this kind of motley crew, right? Look around and see who that person is hanging out with.
Right.
What company do they keep? And if Bernie's on the same side as Trump and Holly, then that's a bad sign.
Get out of here.
Get out of here, right? And I couldn't agree more with that. Which is why I think it's important to look at this motley crew. That on the right, of course, is Larry Summers.
Are they at Minnie Mouse's house in Disneyland? Where are they?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really good question. That is the wonderful lavender couch, and that, of course, is a very distinguished gentleman. We got going from left to right. We have Alan Dershowitz. Let's skip over the next one because he's the best. Who's the guy?
Preeminent individual.
Who's the guy in the blue button?
I don't know who. That's probably just a scientist.
Know who that is? I think it is a scientist. Probably a Harvard scientist.
Some Harvard scientist.
Right. And of course, the second from the left, sitting next to Alan Dershowitz, the only man who could make Alan Dershowitz look like the better of the two, is Jeffrey Epstein. So
the big guy.
Larry, you're right.
Himself, there he is.
You're right, and so just like Bernie,
honestly, if I see a crew like this, I'm running for the hills.
Yes, good.
And you know what? What you'll find at those hills, that it's actually an island, and there's no way to escape. Right. That's what you'll find when you get to the hills. When you run from the hills from this crew, is you'll get up to the hill and you'll be like, "What the fuck? How do I even get off of? There's no way to get out of here."
I bet you that's I wouldn't be surprised if that was Dershowitz's house. He has a very tacky house in Miami, I believe.
I mean, it truly does look like it's like Minnie Mouse's submarine or something.
Yeah, and look at the beautiful sculpture on the wall. But look, here's the other thing. Like, I get it. Maybe this is a one-time thing, right? Like, he met him at Harvard, a Harvard function. I get it. Well, not really. Because here it is again with Epstein. Wow. You got Bill Gates in the room. And then who's this guy? Jerry Rubin? I think it's not Jerry. Is that Jerry Rubin, another Clinton guy?
Wow.
I believe. Wow. And I don't know who this guy is, but he looks like that Pete Postlethwaite. Remember him? Not really. Anyway, so
I actually I like every once in a while with Epstein pictures, it's like a bunch of MIT scientists and then a guy that just looks like he's in the mafia.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a weird kind of mix there.
It looks like a Kaiser Sose, like the Hungarian mafia.
Yeah.
That may be a little very niche and specific, but I feel it in my bones. Okay, 1 second. Got to have some water.
Hey, you gotta hydrate. That's one of the best liquids there is.
Water in front of everyone.
Gotta hydrate.
Yes. All right. So I keep thinking that's a napkin. It's a plastic bag, so that won't really work if I try to apply it to my face. Wow, that sounded way darker than I meant to sound. Oh, okay. I knew someone would come through. The guy in the blue shirt. Photoshop her image. Yeah.
Wow. Some are saying that. I have heard that.
Yeah. Oh, Riyad El-Alami says, "Listen to me here. We give billionaires $2 billion each, and it'll trickle down. Haha. Very true." All right. So let's. You know what? We can watch some more videos afterwards, but I want to bring in. Well, no. We're going to watch one more video, and then we're going to bring in our guest. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right.
Change gears now and talk about one of the newest congressman-elect to enter into Congress. He is Jamal Bowman. He is going to be a member of the squad, the newest member, and we know exactly what he thinks. He told The Root, "I believe our current system of capitalism is slavery by another name. We've moved from physical chattel, enslavement, and physical racial segregation to a plantation economic system, one that keeps the majority of Americans unemployed or underemployed,
because we don't want to overheat
the
economy. That's why.
The elite continue to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and allow large corporations to pretty much run the world as multinational corporations." He's not loving free market capitalism. He doesn't call 1-800-ADAM-SMITH to find out how he's going to approach the workplace.
Wait, does this guy
1-800-ADAM-SMITH?
We got to make that into a number. If it's not.
How do you feel about that, Charles?
1-800-ADAM-SMITH.
Yeah, Bowman is part of that whole squad.
By the way, I love that way he just goes to the black guy. How do you feel about that?
Well, what do you think about this?
Ah! Sorry about this. God damn it.
Change gears now and allow large corporations to workplace. How do you
that was first apparatus, and these are.
How do you feel about that, Charles?
Yeah, Bowman is part of that whole squad apparatus, and these are really socialists. These are folks who bought into this progressive utopia that was first originated in the late 1800s as an idea of how mankind should live.
How's it work?
Essentially, we should all have.
Well, we wouldn't really know.
It hasn't worked, and
well,
the
has
idea
it happened?
is a shared misery, and where all the wealth will be concentrated in government, and they make the decisions on everything because somehow they would be wiser and more elite than the rest of us. But I want to say one thing about Bowman and the squad. They often use the miseries or the history, for instance, of black people, and they talk about black and brown people around the world. A lot of the things they propose doesn't hurts black and brown people. The student loan debacle that they're trying to push, that would overwhelmingly help white folks with master's degrees who eventually earn millions of dollars more over their lifetime than anyone else. Getting rid of oil. Let me tell you what oil does. Oil, black and brown. It's $83 billion for Iraq, $133 billion for Saudi Arabia. It's $41 billion for Nigeria. It's $32.
We love enriching Saudi Arabia, by the way. It really trickles down to the people
$1 billion
there.
for Angola. In fact, the Congo.
There are a lot. Katie, that's not fair. There are a lot of hardworking assassins who that money has trickled down to. There's a lot of like weapons manufacturers. I mean, literally the entire ISIS caliphate trickled down from Saudi Arabian wealth. So let's be honest. That created so many jobs across the Middle East. Now, love them or hate them, they create a lot of jobs.
But you know what I like about what this guy's doing? He's woke washing.
There's more over their lifetime than anyone else. Getting rid of oil. It's $41 billion.
So I just like that because
it's 50% of their revenue.
I like the way that
they're talking about decimating millions of black and brown people for the socialist utopian idea that they bought into in college, and they hide behind things like ugly scenes of police brutality or the notion that corporate.
All right. Well, I just like that because it's in an age of polarized politics. It's nice to see some bipartisan woke washing. So that's our woke washing of the week, and it's coming from the right instead of the left. So I like that. And then this is our last thing. We're going to continue the Jamal Bowman thing. And friend of show, literal former guest, would love to have her back on. Two-time guest, Corey Bush. Let's hear what they had to say. And of course, this is interesting in the context of
this clip is I mean, the reaction in this clip is great.
Okay. Where did you go? Okay. No. Where did it go? Okay. Got it. All right. I moved it back by accident.
And real quick, before I let you both go, something looking ahead at that you're both going to have to vote on, which is the Speaker of the House, Congresswoman-elect Bush. Will you vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker?
What I'm going to do is make sure that the voices of the people of St. Louis are heard and that we have what we need. And so you'll find out then.
Yes.
That's not a yes.
I'm working with my community. I'm working with my community.
Sorry, Donna.
And Congressman-elect Bowman, will you vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker?
What is she looking down at?
You will find out when my vote is tallied, and again, organizing with our community to figure out what's best.
I'm just curious, what does that mean when you said organizing with our community?
She's like, what the fuck does that mean?
From them real quick.
She's like, what's community?
What does that mean? Organizing with your community?
So
aren't you supposed to be the most important? Yeah.
Go ahead,
Corey.
Jamal.
No, for me,
this is cute.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we're almost out of time, actually. So just
all right, Dana Bash.
Answer.
We got to bring HR 40 to the floor for a vote. We need reparations for the African American community. We need a federal jobs guarantee. We need Medicare for all.
She's like about to burst into tears, Donna. Anyway, Dana Bash.
That is so funny that she is like, what the hell does that mean? Going back to your community. Like, it's like, Dana, what they are is elected officials. And so they're elected to represent people. Just so you know, Dana. And
that's
a group of people What that makes up is a community. Let's make sure that you can like keep up Dana Bash, someone who's been on TV talking about politics for 40 years. You know,
I mean, to be fair, it is pretty unique because very few politicians do that. I'll give her that credit. Yeah. But yeah, she should be able to understand it, even if we don't see it enough. Anyway, so those are our clips. The good, bad, the ugly, all ugly, but there's some good in this one. I like that. And let's bring in our guests. Jack, what time do you have to?
I can do till like 9 Eastern. Great. So I'm awesome. I'm good for the guest. Yeah.
Great. So let's bring in our guest. I'm so happy to have her. She is, I think she's our debut Brazilian guest, which is exciting. It was about time. And let's see. I want to thank Max Mayer, who sent us $5, saying $5 to support Jack and Katie. Thanks for the show. Thank you.
Hey, that's one of my best friends from high school. Max Mayer is the man.
Max, really?
Yeah, it's one of my buddies from high school.
Max Mayer. Wow, thank you.
He was messaging me at the start of the show, and I said, watch the show.
Yeah. Phantom Santos says, no blood left in the skin. Stake him. Vampire emoji. I think that's a reference to Larry Summers. Elliot sent $5 saying, okay, then let's increase the top tax rates and give the money to poor people. I agree. So let's bring in our guest. She is a journalist. She is the founder of Brazil's first independent investigative journalism nonprofit, and the hardest working woman in Brazil, hardest working woman journalist in Brazil, Natalia VIana. Welcome.
Hello, Katie. Thank you for having the show. I was trying to follow the show, but I have to say I got lost sometimes.
Oh, okay. Well, just because the narrative or the cultural references or?
Cultural references and very specific American politics. Right. I'm really sorry, I'm not following every detail.
It's okay. Don't worry. Well, honestly,
it's sometimes good to have a reminder that all this stuff is so niche and stupid. Yeah, frankly. Right.
That there is a world out there.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this is why I've had on people to talk about what's happening in Bolivia. Where else? You know what? I do need to bring the international focus back. I used to have much more of that. Greg Grandin is great online America, obviously from here, but yeah, I got to get some more. You'll be our Brazil stringer.
Wow.
In fact, for now, we may have to stay South American stringer before we really branch out and get the more. Then we can drill down more.
Yeah, Argentinos are going to get really pissed if you do that.
I know. Well, that's a good byproduct. That's a secondary benefit of having you be the South American correspondent stringer. But
you already really said because of Maradona.
Oh, you're right. Yes, we talked about Maradona a little bit, and we did have on. We've had on Mariana Schmoes, although not on the live stream, but she's been on the show before. And we got to have some people on to talk about Venezuela. And where else, though? Obviously, basically all the countries there. Got to have a Cuba person. Of course, we would got to get not just limited to Latin America. But anyway, thank you. That is a good reminder to expand the focus. So, Natalia, tell us what you are doing right now. And tell us, I guess we could start with the upcoming trial of Assange, and that for you is a significant thing because of your own experience with WikiLeaks. So could you tell people about how you got involved in WikiLeaks?
Yes, of course. I don't know. I tweeted this like a couple of weeks ago. I find it so outrageous that the US media is really not covering the Assange case, because it is a very unique extradition request of a publisher, of a person who publishes, of a person who runs an organization that publishes information. He's seen as a journalist by many. I see him as a journalist and a publisher. And there is a request to extradite him solely because he published American sensitive information, which is, well, it's very scary for anybody who is not an American, because he did not touch the US. He did not go to the US. He did not get these documents in the US. He's not a US citizen, and he's being extradited to the US under the Espionage Act. And this has had zero coverage, like in the main media, US media. When I tweeted this, I have a friend who is a professor at the Texas University. He said, "Oh no, it is in the in the Guardian page or in the BBC." He was like, I counted. It was the 35th story on their homepage.
Wow.
And these are media who have like special, strong interest in the case. Media such as the New York Times that partner up with WikiLeaks on several occasions. Nobody's talking about it. Right now, the verdict is going to be delivered on the 4th of January, which means it's still under Trump, right? There was a little campaign for Trump to pardon him, but of course, Trump didn't. And so it's still under Trump. And, well, it sets a horrible precedent for journalists who, like me, investigate the U.S. influence abroad. This has been one of my main topic of investigation. So I'm very interested in it. I hope other people will.
Do you have headphones, by the way?
I do, but my headphones don't have a microphone.
That's okay.
All right.
I think it's better. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, it's really sad. Kevin Gosztola is a great person if you're not already following him. He's an excellent journalist, and he has a list of people, because the sad thing is it's so limited, the people who are actually writing about this case, as you are pointing out. And it is pathetic because it is an extremely important case. And, people like Daniel Ellsberg, who is, of course, considered a hero by liberals because he, his leak, the Pentagon Papers was done under Nixon. So he's considered a hero by people who then turn around and call Assange and Snowden and Manning traitors. So there's something really going on there. And it is, it is absolutely stunningly disturbing that this isn't a bigger story, because it touches on so much, touches on free press, touches on exposing, government crimes, right? Like, very lost in this is the fact that this exposed a literal war crime, right? We saw the thing that, of course, Chelsea Manning revealed was a disgusting attack on unarmed people, including members of the press, and with a very chilling, enthusiastic narration where they're telling people to get them. And of course, all of that is lost. And people are just so lazy, either lazy or dishonest. And they just go say, he put lives at risk. And they never talk about the lives that were actually already sacrificed in the original crime that he helped expose.
Of course, but then also there is a step further, because Daniel Ellsberg and Snowden and Chelsea Manning were all whistleblowers. There were people from the US that exposed documents. Assange is merely a publisher. He's not American. Assange going to jail puts anybody, any journalist who worked with American sensitive documents, whatever, Chile, and I get hold of a bunch of sensitive documents from the US Embassy. It's leaked to me. Somebody gives it to me, but it's secret. So am I going to be a subject of an extradition request?
Yes. Might be now, Might be now,
No.
There are no laws anymore as far as all this stuff is concerned. Like, we thought that there were rules as far as engagement is concerned. They don't exist. You know what I mean? Like, if the major world power wants to extradite someone, I guess that they will just get that done. It really is very scary.
Oh my God! But do you guys think something's going to change with Biden, or is it going to be the same?
No.
I almost think that it's less of it. I mean, we keep trying to convince Trump to own the libs by doing things, including pardoning Assange. But I do really think that in a way, I don't think Biden will do it. I don't. I think that things won't get better under Biden. I think that things in a way will be the same. And in a way will be worse because there again won't be the opposition to it. There won't be the resistance.
Well, I mean it's like under Trump, you know, for it was good to see our press suddenly get very you know, they were very, you know, aggressive with the president in a way that they haven't been maybe in the past. I just don't think that energy will continue now that it's not someone who insulted them personally. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like the media just didn't like that he insulted them and called them names, and I don't know that the same level of criticism is going to come for Biden. And like Katie's saying, that's a little bit worrisome. That's dangerous.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that there's been so much character assassination, and there has been a very, like, this weird just devolve. It's like the liberal brain has kind of devolved. And all of a sudden, like, the only metric of principle is whether or not you are someone who helped Hillary Clinton or helped Donald Trump. And that's it. That's like the gaze. That's the lens through which people are examined, including, of course, Snowden, who was given a chance to collaborate with Trump, by the way, and did not do that. But again, this shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And again, that's why we're talking to you, Donald Trump, big fan of the show, I'm sure. Yeah. You gotta, you know, Hillary people hate Assange. So, you know, I mean, the guy Trump, in his ideological versatility, let's say, did at first say that Assange should be executed, I believe. But that has never stopped him before. He is not a prisoner of consistency. So why not, Trump? Go all out. You know, liberals' heads will explode, a la scanners. So if that should be enough of a reason to do it. But can you talk about and Max Blumenthal? We've had Max Blumenthal on the show, who did this like really damning expose. Deep dive into the Spanish security contract.
I see. Oh my God, for El País, very good. Sorry.
Yeah, he didn't do it for El País. He used El País reporting, but he did stuff about Pompeo and Sheldon Adelson's relationship to this Spanish company. And you know, another piece he wrote which was very, very disturbing, was about how journalists, even after he helped and he and others revealed that they were spied on, they didn't do anything about it. They didn't complain about it, even after it was revealed that they had their stuff, you know, looked through by people in the embassy. So there's a real like scary groupthink that doesn't even apply. That even applies to. It's like they even internalize these rules at their own cost, at their own expense.
Yeah, can I say something? You know what I think? I think something happened in that the press felt really threatened 10 years ago by what WikiLeaks would represent, because it would be like a direct, you know, free way of the people to, you know, share information and get their own judgment. So WikiLeaks is a criticism of the press in essence. And then this is like how the companies felt, and then, you know, the employees just, you know,
reflect
were the same. Yeah,
no, that's a really good point. Yeah, WikiLeaks is in itself kind of a challenge to corporate media.
Yeah, to the gatekeepers, to those who. One day I was talking to, I was in one of these, you know, huge WikiLeaks discussions we had back on those days, which were super exciting because we were debating, you know, all of these ethical issues. And then I think I'm not sure if I was talking to Assange or somebody else. And then they said, okay, so a journalist, everybody say, okay, so WikiLeaks shouldn't publish everything. There is things that should be published, there's things that shouldn't be published. And then he or somebody else from his crew told me, so a journalist is defined by what he doesn't publish. Mm-hmm. Not by what he should publish, right? And that was like, oh my God, I can't respond to that. Because really, this is what they're saying. You're a good journalist if you don't publish everything. You're a good journalist if you select what to publish.
Yeah, a dangerous thing. And it's also, it's like journalism through discretion, like being discreet and not rocking the boat. And the other thing that's kind of ridiculous is that if these newspapers were willing to, these prestigious outlets were willing to publish these things, how can they then turn around and say that this is a dangerous person or a dangerous man or not worthy of protection? Again, like pick a narrative. They'd be wrong either way, but at least they'd be consistent. But what are you saying when you deem this worthy of publication, and the person, beyond beyond normal protection? And if these are such dangerous secrets and so disruptive and irresponsible, why were you sharing them? And how did you get involved personally in WikiLeaks?
So that was 10 years ago and a month. I got a call from on my phone, and I was in the Amazon, trying to investigate some, companies doing damage to the environment. And I got like this very secretive call saying, Natalia, this girl who worked for WikiLeaks, she called me and she said, I have a super secret project that I want to invite you to be on, and you're gonna, no journalist will ever refuse, and you're gonna get in contact with the biggest amount of information that any journalist has ever gotten in contact with, but I need you to be in London in like 2 days. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Should I trust it or not?
And you didn't know she didn't tell you the details. She just said it was a major scoop.
Yeah, she said it was a major scoop, and she said that my name was suggested by this amazing journalist called Gavin McFadden, who now has died. But he's the founder of the Center of Investigative Journalism in London. And I had worked with him, and I knew that he was, a good guy. He was a huge, very, very great investigative journalist who investigated, all sorts of corruptions from companies and diamond companies in Africa, and etc. And I had interned for him. So they needed somebody from Brazil, and he had suggested me. So she said, Gavin suggested you. So I called Gavin, and he told me, don't ask questions, just go. He's like, very tough man. I flew to London, and then I met them at the Frontline Club in London, which is it's a club for journalists who work in war. Then I went with them, and I stayed with them for 10 days ahead of the Cablegate leak, which happened on the 29th of November, 2010, 10 years ago. And that's when Hillary Clinton started really hating Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, because I don't know if you guys remember, they learned, I think 10, 15 days in advance that the leak was going to come, and Hillary Clinton had to call different heads of state to apologize, because, all the ambassadors were saying very embarrassing things about their own allies, but also there were other things. They were spying. Remember, they were spying on world leaders at the UN. They were talking to opposition leaders. The whole thing was it really revealed how they operated in the world. So she had to call allied people to apologize, and she got, she got really upset.
Yeah. And then she said she wanted Snowden to come back to face the music, which I thought was interesting. And so you went to London, and you were there.
He was reported back then to have said, can't we just drone this guy, Assange?
I didn't know that. Jack, did you know that? She said, can we just drone this guy?
Wow. Yes, no, yes, I think I've heard that said before, but it is truly just horrific.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Why not Gaddafi him?
I mean, honestly, he is lucky that they're actually extraditing him. Really, when it comes down to it, he could get the Gaddafi treatment. Like, he could have got the Hillary Clinton treatment.
He's in the UK. He could get the Litvinenko treatment. I mean,
yeah, right.
but one of the things the other day I was thinking, this man, he has not stolen anything. He has not murdered anybody. He has not killed anybody. He has not committed sexual crimes against anybody. He published documents. That's what he did. And he's been effectively in jail for 10 years. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's really unbelievable. Awful. And you're absolutely right that it is this is American media just will not cover this. You know what I mean? It's so obviously a human rights violation, and so obviously, against the sort of freedom of the press and the very sort of morals and what they say we fight for. And, It's just something that they're never going to talk about here in America.
Yeah, even though if it were happening in other countries, they would give it, they would point to it as an example of a barbaric, intolerant, corrupt country. But I guess it's okay when you do it. So, okay, and then can you just explain to people what your kind of role once you got there was?
So I was in charge of overlooking and thinking up a strategy for the Brazilian documents. Julian Assange wanted every country to have 2 newspapers working on the documents, because he wanted different newspapers with different editorial lines to look at the same documents. So then, one would oversee the other and you'd have more varied coverage. So in Brazil, I chose Folha de São Paulo and O Globo. I contacted them and I organized the publication, the whole the whole strategy of, giving them the documents, or organizing the publication, the issues, etc. And at the same time, I wrote a bunch of articles for the Wikileaks website, and then later for my own website. We had so many, we had 3,000 documents from Brazil, so much that the 2 newspapers published a bunch of articles, but there were still so many unexplored issues that we decided to found Agência Pública, the first nonprofit for investigative journalism, just to have a team to be able to look at these documents and publish more and more stories. And then we did that, and we just put together a bunch of volunteer journalists, and we published 50 stories that would have been overlooked by the mainstream media, because the same issues that happen in the US happen here. They have their own agendas and their own economic interests, but also they don't care about, and they don't investigate. There were stories that were too hard to put together, and they didn't care about those.
Yeah, and so that's interesting, because even that WikiLeaks, in a way, right? In your case, it helped foster a new independent media culture or entity in your case, right? You co-founded it. And do you remember, what was the most shocking thing that you discovered when looking at the leaks?
The leaks in Brazil, there were a bunch of things. I thought, for instance, there was the revelation that Brazil didn't have a anti-terrorism law, but the federal police was being tipped off by the FBI, and they were arresting possible terrorists on other charges such as drug, just some fake charges, so they would keep them hostage, and then they would be interviewed. To the Americans, this was pretty shocking to me. Nobody here cared much. The Minister of Defense was talking behind the back, was talking ill of the government to the Americans, saying that the government was. It was back in the day. It was back in the Lula government. So the government itself was very independent from the U.S. And you had one minister, the defense minister, was causing up to the Americans, saying, "Oh no, this government doesn't understand the importance," and saying, "Oh, our foreign minister, he says bad things about you, but I love you guys." So this was very funny. But there wasn't this huge. There wasn't one huge scandal that came out of it. Slowly, things evolve. It's if you looked at the WikiLeaks paper, you would have the history of what would happen in the next years in Brazil. It's all there. So one of the things that happened, for instance, the Americans were super concerned about having a bigger share in the press-out oil layer. The layer of petroleum that was found in Brazil, and it's super, super deep down in the sea. Petrobras, the state company, oil company, developed this technology. And back in 2010, the ambassadors were talking to engineers, and they were talking to business people, and they were all concerned that Petrobras was going to be the one to run all those oil reserves, because by law it would. And then, after the impeachment of Dilma, one of the first laws that was passed was the law that eradicated this necessity, this obligation for Petrobras to run it. And then it was, this is the same old story that we've been experiencing And now,
right. So it's like it was like a preview. So it was like a preview of what to come. Right.
But yeah, if you look at what they were lobbying for after the impeachment of Dilma, they got like everything they were lobbying for back in the day. It's really amazing, really impressive. That's why I love it. It's still there. It's plus D. Just Google plus D. It's the library of U.S. documents. All the history of your countries are there. If you're not American, if you're American as well, it's amazing. It's a map for what they're doing, what you guys are doing in the world. You guys.
Right. Yeah. You're welcome. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just gonna.
I guess we are heroes now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. We are shining a beacon. We are shining a light on corruption. The corruption that we are taking. We're being a little bit. We're not being modest. We're bragging. We're showing, not telling. Or we're actually doing both, I guess. I just wanted to show this photo also of you and Assange. And I also want to ask you about, like, one of the things that we see happen a lot is this emphasis on his character. I think it's an attempt to, make him an unappealing character, to make it so that, as Matt Taibbi, my co-host for Useful Idiots, and a very important journalist in his own right, as he points out, there's some, people try to create an ick factor, so that the person is like not worthy of empathy or worthy of just like having his rights respected. What's that been like for you as someone who knows him?
Yeah, I think something really weird happened, because back in 2010 he was a total pop star. He was the man in front of the Times magazine. He was Man of the Year. He was like a pop star. Women would show up like trying to marry him. And I think, I've never said this before, but I think being a nerd, do you guys know, sorry, nerd, I don't mean to offend the geek community.
This is a slur. It's a slur.
I nerd identify.
You said a slur about my people.
No, but we reappropriated it, yeah.
I'm married to a developer myself. They have, they are very bad with being social. And I think when he became super famous, he liked it. And I think he didn't see how this could really destroy him. So in the beginning, he was a superstar, and everybody wanted to write profiles of him and interview him, and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, he grew much bigger than Wikileaks. Wikileaks became him, and it wasn't him. Wikileaks was, there was a bunch of people who were extremely good, lawyers, activists, and journalists involved in it and really running it. People who are like some of the best journalists I've worked with. But in the end, the media, in a way, was super fascinated and, by him, and he allowed this to happen as well, which really, I don't think is his fault. But I think he played a little bit because he couldn't judge it so much. And then, and then it was very easy. Once he was such a huge character, to, just go after the character. You can do this with anybody. You can do this with any person. Right. It's much harder to do this against an institution, such as the Greenpeace.
Right.
Or
yes, I think that. Right. I also do think that, like, regardless of how he had acted, they would have done this to him. Character assassination is one of the things that they use. So to me, it's just kind of a gross thing to do. It's but
if you think about it, for instance, they couldn't do this with Snowden. Snowden was so much more careful as well. I'm not
very private.
I'm not saying that it is Assange's fault. But I'm saying that they could not do this with other people. With Snowden, for sure, they didn't do it. But maybe I don't know. Maybe Assange is more dangerous. Maybe they put more effort, because the amount of money they have spent on that, just on the spying the embassy alone,
right?
Supporting the Swedish case.
Well, he's a weird. I think part of it is right. Yeah. I guess I just think it's not. He is like a quirkier character than Snowden. But I guess my point is that it was more that like they are using what they see as a weirdness about him to erode the rights of others. So he's a great person to kind of test this out on and set a precedent with, right? Because all of this stuff is totally irrelevant.
Absolutely,
and it should
absolutely.
be seen and treated as irrelevant, but they're definitely using it. And you see people falling for it and they're like, oh, I just don't like him. Like he rubs me the wrong way. And again, it's like, I don't really care. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's not what this is about.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
And you know what
and,
I think the media owners and editors really fell off with him and then really took it very personal. You're talking about how the media in the US, this is crazy, isn't it? It's about white man pride or something. You're talking about how the media in the US got personally offended by Trump. I think it's kind of the same thing. They got personally offended with what Wikileaks or himself. And then they were like, yeah, I'm not going to let this guy talk to us like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of ego and inappropriate, like, personalization of these things. Again, that journalists should be afraid of. Like, they should not be comfortable with the way this person is being treated. But I think his like quirkiness, again, and I'm not like focusing on this because I think it's relevant. I'm focusing on it because I think it's an important thing to be aware of, which is that people are there's like a weaponization of his quirkiness to try to whitewash and sanitize what is happening to him. In a way that people will be like, oh, well, I don't identify with him. Like that one happened to me because I'm not that way. And it's really disturbing. I mean, looking at him when I saw him being dragged out of the embassy, it was like absolutely awful. And, he's being tortured. I mean, the UN rapporteur on torture has said that the treatment he's received is torture, which is no small thing to say. And what are you expecting or hoping will happen?
Okay, so the whole case is in the hands of a judge that has been shown to have had connection to her husband has connections with the U.S. with the UK intelligence. There is a guy who reports on this. Mike, what's his name? Mike Kennard. He's a very good journalist. From the UK, you should follow him. He has exposed his judge. So I don't think the judge. You can expect a fair treatment from the judge. What could happen is if the American prosecution says, okay, we want to, take it easy on these or let's not press forward, which I also don't think is going to happen because, it's January. But whatever happens, I know that there's going to be, a recourse. There's going to be, how to say in English? They're going to...
An appeal?
An appeal. There's definitely going to be an appeal. Yeah. So... The ruling is going to come on the 4th. I think the judge is going to say yes to the extradition. Then there's going to be an appeal, and we're going to have a huge circus. And I really hope that there's more coverage. One thing that I'm thinking, because whatever happens, the extradition itself, even if he gets extradited, is going to happen during the Joe Biden government. Joe Biden arrives as like this new America, the guy is going to do everything right and etc. And the extradition itself is going to be painful. It's going to be big and it's going to be covered if it happens.
Well, we have to make sure it is covered. That's I mean, that's why I think
like when he got dragged out of the embassy, that was covered.
It was just too good. Yeah, it was too good news to ignore. I mean, not good, but too compelling. I mean, one thing I do think could be used to pressure Biden is the fact that, liberals who praise Obama as a kind of man of the upstanding citizen, upstanding president, someone who takes the rule of law seriously, the fact that Obama decided not to pursue him to the extent that Pompeo and Trump are, I mean, that is something that we should be using and reminding people of. And again, if given that so many people see Obama as the normal or the kind of respectable and again, rule of law and constitutional rights, really people should be questioning why on earth you wouldn't fall on that side of the spectrum as opposed to the side of Trump and Pompeo. Again, Trump is an unprecedented Cheeto Mussolini threat. That's the narrative among a lot of the people who are vilifying Assange. So even by your own moral system, which defines Obama as good and Trump as bad, and I'm not saying Trump is not bad. I just think that Obama has lots of flaws too, and often the bad things about Trump are ignored. And I mean, I don't know if that happens in Brazil, but here there's this weird kind of focus on, he's an unprecedented threat, and he should be harder. He should be more aggressive with Putin. Why do you want, and more belligerent? It's like, how do what's the end game there? What's the game plan? So there's a lot of kind of broken brain syndrome. And what is your role going to be in this kind of moving forward?
Well, right now I haven't worked with Wikileaks for a while because I've been focusing on Agência Pública a lot. They also stopped publishing leaks in a couple of years. So my job is, I'm a journalist, so that's what I can do. I'm going to write about it. I'm starting a newsletter telling the story of the leak and trying to show a little bit of how much courage it took to publish all those documents. And it was brave of him, and it was brave of the journalists involved, and also brave of all the media. Over 100 different media published the documents back then 10 years ago. So I'm starting a newsletter about that, a pop-up newsletter, and I'm gonna follow up and cover it for Agência Pública. But right now I'm far, and we are in a huge shit show. Can I say shit show?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes, you can certainly say shit show. And so that actually is a good segue. I wanted to ask you about how, what Agência Pública, is that Agência Pública? I don't know how to say it. Thank you. What you guys do, how you kind of were able to start it. And I don't know if this is an uncouth question, but how old were you when you co-founded it?
Oh, 10 years ago, I was 30.
30? Jesus Christ. So you were a 30-year-old journalist, and you started the first investigative, Brazil's first investigative nonprofit.
Yeah, but back then we had no idea it was going to work. We just, we founded something, and we expected that it was going to go, it was going to stop in 2 months. That's going to be 10 years.
Right. Wow. And you co-founded with another woman, another journalist who was a woman also?
Yes.
Was she your age, more or less?
No, she's older. She's 20 years older than me. And she had already, founded a magazine. And, she's like, okay, so I've got an adult in the room. And she was helping out a little bit in not freaking out. But really, when we started, how we started? So I got the Wikileaks documents. I became famous because every journalist in Brazil wanted to get hold of the documents. They were all calling me, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Then Marina came and said, hey, why don't we do that thing that you wanted to do, an investigative journalism agency? And then I said, okay, let's do it. And the way we did is basically, I went on WordPress and built a website. And then I was running up for an award, which I won. And then in the day of the award, we said, we're launching this organization, yay. And that's how we founded it.
Wow.
We stayed for 8 months just doing our own reporting for free. And then eventually, funders showed up and people started supporting.
And what did you, what challenges did you encounter that maybe you didn't expect?
Well, all the challenges in the world. We had to learn how to run an organization. We needed to learn what is an organization, but these are the boring challenges. The cool challenges that we overcame is, for instance, the jealousy and sexism of Brazilian journalists. So in the beginning, and also how they're narrow-minded. So right in the beginning, they wouldn't consider should be, a proper media or proper journalists just because we were not famous. We were two women doing the thing. Nobody had heard about us. So then, you had there was this one political commentator who would call us the self-entitled journalism investigative agency, because of course two women cannot do investigative journalism, or could not. 10 years ago, we had several meetings with different newspapers, TVs, and they would say, yeah, but what you do, we're not really interested. Our articles in the beginning, it was really hard to have them picked up by mainstream media. This is all 10 years ago. What happened between then and now is that all these people were fired because the media is shrinking, and they've come after us. Oh, can you help me find my own organization? Or do you have a job for me? Or can I freelance for you? And this is the old guys, the new guys who were in university back then when we founded the Agência Pública. It was the cool thing to be. So, now that they are editors, they've respected us forever. So, right now the doors are much open. We can partner up with any media in Brazil. We regularly partner up with the biggest newspaper. But there was so much prejudice. And I think, going back to the Wikileaks, I think that was kind of the same bag of things that was happening. New media, new actors, these old guys, old white guys who, have always run how stories told and what stories get to be told and whatnot. They resisted so much.
The good old boys club, right? As they call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the name of that film about the Washington Post? The Post, né?
The Post, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the picture. I mean, there is a woman there, but they're all old white men in this huge building, spending a lot of. They spent 3 weeks, very highly paid executives, just debating if they should publish this one thing. It's dude, how much money was wasted on these structures, right? We can do you can do it from there. I can do it with a bunch of guys from here and do really good journalism. This is, it's completely different. They were super scared.
Right. Do you think you can? Sorry. Could you try to refresh your Wi-Fi? I just want to make sure we're getting as good a recording as possible.
Okay.
It'll probably disconnect you for a second. I just want to. I know this is an awkward moment, but I'm trying to do this more because then it makes the ultimate quality better. I don't know why I had to share that with everyone. You know what? Because speaking of sexism, it's one of these things where you apologize a lot. Let me see. Say hi.
Hello.
There's a bit of a delay, but that's okay. I'll fix it. We'll fix it in post. You refreshed it though? Because I didn't see you leave. It should have kicked you out for a second.
I actually changed the networks more than.
But it's fine. Oh, okay. That should be good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am Wi-Fi shaming. So
Wi-Fi shaming the third world country.
Yeah, exactly. No, the developing. Oh, you're canceled. Developing world. What is it? Developing countries. Yeah, Katie's Wi-Fi shaming. Although you're allowed to say that because lol, Katie giving tech advice is adorable. Let's see. Yeah, it's true. So can you talk about what's happening in Brazil now with your beloved president and the response to COVID?
Yes. So the response was awful. It was way worse than your president, and I can assure that it was.
Maybe it's me who has the delay, by the way.
Maybe. But anyway, are you listening? Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you 5 things that he did. He commanded the army to produce and distribute chloroquine, which is happening in Brazil. And we've done an investigation showing that in dozens of municipalities, the mayors are distributing chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, because they wanted to get votings for the election. So they were literally distributing fake medicine because the people say, I need something. I need a medicine. So the mayor is giving them. So I'm going to vote for this person. And many of these mayors got elected or re-elected in the elections we had like a month ago. He still denies that it's a big issue. He put his closest allies to go to the streets and protest the isolation measures. He has confronted the Supreme Court when the Supreme Court decided that those who should rule about social isolation are the states and not the federal government. He has supported demonstrators that
States' rights.
Yes, states' rights. After that, he has gone to hug and support demonstrators who are demonstrating in front of the Supreme Court, asking for a military coup. He went there, he hugged these people, agglomeration, but also literally supporting anti-democratic, being there, supporting military people who are calling for a military coup. So I said 5, right? He has taken COVID, and then he went to the TV saying that he was only alive because of chloroquine. Now he has started. So São Paulo is the richest state in Brazil by far. The São Paulo governor has become the biggest opposition leader that is going to be a candidate in the 2022 elections against Bolsonaro. The government of São Paulo has invested a lot of money in a vaccine in partnership with China. He has started a war against the government to delay the vaccine being approved by the federal government, so that the governor of São Paulo doesn't get to be the guy who actually brought the vaccination. This war has been going on for months, and it has caused a delay in the beginning of the vaccination in the entire country. Right now, 40 countries in the world have started vaccinating their people. Brazil is, I think, the 8th economy of the world, has no plan and no date to start because of a political war between the president and the São Paulo government. So it's a complete and absolute disaster. And I can easily say that Bolsonaro is himself responsible for dozens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths in Brazil. It's appalling. Hello, I don't know if I am not here or Katie is not here anymore. I think she left. So anybody has any questions? I think I'm here alone. Cool, send me a question I can answer about Bolsonaro or anything else.
Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Can I Wi-Fi shame you?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, it was me, not you. It's me, not you, as many people have said in a relationship. Although I've never been in a relationship where that's been said. It's way too much of a cliche. But the last thing I heard you say was I can. Yeah, Elliot says, haha, this is Natalia show now.
Oh my god! Yeah. Oh my god, they should have staged the coup and I didn't.
You're right, like Bolsonaro, yeah. But the last thing I heard you say was like I can definitely say
that he is personally responsible for dozens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of deaths in Brazil. So us as Agência Pública, one of the things that we have been working on is documenting, registering, investigating, and exposing all the cases and situations in which what he says, what his cronies say, have led to worsening of the pandemic here, because I really hope that one day he'll have to pay for the deaths he is causing.
Yeah. That would be nice. And how is he doing politically? Has there been any kind of fallout from this? I mean, how are his ratings?
That's the worst. That's the worst. Oh my God. Okay, so the worst of everything is that his popularity is higher than ever since he took office. So after doing all of this, his popularity is higher than ever. And this is, everybody's puzzled by this because really he's the worst leader in the world in fighting COVID. It has been said actually, but what's happening is that he, as well as other countries, Brazil has given a stipend for people during the COVID crisis, and this stipend is pretty high if you compare to the other social stipends that existed. So it's a huge amount, like a third of Brazilians are receiving the stipends. And this is really having a positive effect on people's lives, and they're being thankful. Of course, the stipend has already been halved and is going to end, I think, by February next year. So then we'll see what happens after that. Right now, he's being praised for giving a stipend, which is an obligation of every government in a situation like this. But yeah, right now he's very popular. If the election was today, I have to say he would probably be elected again.
That's interesting because I remember when Trump got COVID, I had Victor Pugian from System Update from The Intercept Brazil. And because I obviously Trump lost, as everyone knows, but I wasn't, a lot of people were sure that would be the end of it. And I don't think it affected him that much and his numbers that much, Trump. And I was afraid that he would be able to use that as proof of how he was right the whole time. And as long as you're not an old person and unhealthy, you'll be okay. Because I knew that Bolsonaro had not taken any hits from it. At the time, and they're pretty similar, Bolsonaro and Trump, right? I mean, how do you see that? How do they compare?
Well, Bolsonaro copies Trump. I'm sure everybody here is sure that there is a connection. They have a good relationship. Their sons talk, and Bolsonaro was coached by Steve Bannon as well. Steve Bannon still talks to his friends, to his kids, and supports them. And they work in the same way, which is like the social media way. Like, you have to be the most outrageous you can, and you're going to get the more attention you can. You're going to get your bases all excited. They're going to excite other people, and you are going to run the media circles, because this is key to the whole strategy in this time. So what they do is, how can I be the most outrageous ever? And then people are going to be talking about me, and my people who are crazy about me are going to be defending me, and all the media are going to be talking to me about me. So this is basically their strategy. We have believed. I mean, in the past, I still believe that it runs its course after a while. You can't be running a country like this forever. And right now, I have to say, what is keeping his popularity high is the stipends, and not his way of leading the government.
Dealing with it, yeah. It's funny because that's what David Dayen, who's this, who's very good on the stimulus and stuff, and he was saying, why didn't Trump lead? Looks like Trump is, given that he pushed for the 2000, why wasn't he doing that? Why wasn't he running like a populist economically, as opposed to just in rhetoric? Why wasn't he doing that while he was running? Now he's doing it. And there are very various reasons, but I know that something that Glenn Greenwald has said about them, and it seems very obvious. It seems like on its face true, but it's important to highlight, is that, Bolsonaro is that much more powerful in a place like Brazil because of the institutions of Brazil being younger and more vulnerable than they are here. Yeah, and also, Bolsonaro is
he also has the support of two extremely strong forces in Brazilian politics, which is the military, and he has the support of the military, not unconditional, but they still support him. And many of their key stars are in the government. and the evangelicals. The Christians. They're huge. They are a huge political force, and they're totally allied to Bolsonaro. Like most like the key political leaders of the evangelicals in the height of the crisis went to hold a prayer for Bolsonaro in Brasilia, in the palace, and this is like a marriage that is not going to fall. And they are very strong in Brazil. So I think this helps a lot. They're both much stronger here than in the US, but also in the US, I think the military doesn't support anybody, and the Christians do support Trump, but I don't think they're as influential in politics as they're here.
Right. Just a question. So whatever man says, are the native Brazilians given the stipend also? Gabby Creolita says, do you know of any updates on the asesinos of Marielle Franco? Any chance Bolsonaro's son will face criminal penalties? Much love to Natalia from an Argentine. That's very nice. Squashing the beef. And then Dave L. asks, whatever happened to Sergio Moro?
Okay, so thank you for following Brazilian politics. Yay! And thank you from Argentina, Natalia. No, she's not Natalia. She sent me Gabi. Thank you, Gabi, from Argentina. So these two things are very different. Marielle Franco is a councilwoman who was killed 2 years ago. She was killed in the center of Rio after, taking part in a meeting. She was killed by people connected to the militias, which are basically paramilitary groups that come from the military police, and then they take over parts of the city. They claim that they are protecting the people against drug traffickers, but then they just dominate the city. They act as paramilitary and charge different fees, and they charge they just harass and extort the people in the areas that they control. It's been very established that Marielle Franco was killed by a militia group, and still we don't know who ordered the murder, but the main suspicion is that it is related to the paramilitary groups. There is some suspicion that connects them to Bolsonaro, but is not very strong. And I'm going to explain. Nothing says that the Bolsonaros were involved in it, but it is known that the Bolsonaros are and were very connected to militias. So they come from the same cultural background. These are rogue policemen, rogue police, rogue military police, and they think that criminals should be killed, and they think that they're you can kill people but not be corrupt. It's the old super right-wing kind of a mentality. But there is no strong links that connect the sons of Bolsonaro to the murder themselves. However, the sons of Bolsonaro have been connected to the militias and are being investigated. And I think very likely there's going to be some penalties for Flávio specifically, one of the sons of Bolsonaro, who is, he's too entangled with the militias. And the militias, after they dominate an area, they start doing a bunch of illegal things. So they build illegal buildings. They charge, they extort people. It's not that hard to prove that they are involved in illegal activity. And Bolsonaro's son was very connected to them. And for more than a year now, the public ministry is investigating them. This is one of the things that really scares Bolsonaro, because it's quite likely that his kid will end up in jail.
That would be great.
Yes.
We can pray. We should ask the evangelicals to pray. Not that they will. And I'm praying a secular Jewish godless prayer for this. And the Brazilian, where was this? Someone asked if the indigenous Brazilians were given the stipend, and then Dave L, whatever happened to Sergio Moro?
If the indigenous, like native Brazilians, well, I guess they are. I'm not sure, actually. This is a very good question. Can I Google it? I'm not sure, because the indigenous, they have a specific they have a specific, how to say, juridical nature in Brazil. They're ruled by the
legal
state.
Status or
legal status. They have a specific legal status, and I'm actually gonna check that. I don't know. The other questions, what happened to Sergio Moro? That I know very much. Sergio Moro is the judge that presided over Lava Jato car wash operation, the most, the biggest corruption scandal. Ended up, and he himself was personally responsible for doing actions that led to removing Lula from the last elections, and Lula was the strongest contestant, which led to the landslide win of Bolsonaro. And Judge Moro, right after Bolsonaro was elected, accepted to be his justice minister, therefore throwing everything that he had done in the mud, but also revealing what he really thought about, the world, which is, he's a right-wing bastard that really wanted to get rid of the left-wing power force that is Lula. He was in the Bolsonaro government until April this year. He left, accusing Bolsonaro of trying to interfere with the federal police. He left, and he immediately became an outcast, a victim of the Bolsonaro bullies, and very quickly lost all of his glories, because the people who were supporting him by now were only the extreme right-wingers, the Bolsonaro supporters. He lost everything. He's still seen as a possible...
because he was too compromised. It was too obvious, his corruption.
Well,
he became a liability.
He became no. He it's not the problem. Yeah, exactly. It was hard to defend him because he's corrupt. His whole career fighting corruption was mudded. But also, he went and worked with Bolsonaro.
Right.
But
it's interesting. It's not because with someone. No, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say with Bolsonaro, it's interesting because with Bolsonaro, kind of like with Trump, they don't have to, their lane is not being men who respect the rule of law. When you're a jurist, it is. Mm-hmm. So you're not allowed to kind of fuck up the same way that someone like Trump or Bolsonaro is.
Right.
Yes. I was actually Googling, and I found out 151,000 native Brazilians have received the social stipend, which is a huge number. The native Brazilians are
but how many are there? That's not a lot, right?
There is about 1 million. So it is a huge amount.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, and thank you for that question. I don't have the name in front of me right now, but I can get that to give them a thank you for asking that. And that would be, I can't remember, but I thank you again. And then we have a question that's on the screen now, which is filled with compliments. So I'll just highlight those. Fabulous interview. Natalia is amazing. Just became a Katie Halper Show Lucky 13 Patreon. Can Natalia comment on Lula's future?
So Lula, something else that I really wanted to comment, Katie, how the leaders are becoming very old. Lula is 75. Isn't it time for new leaders, man? I think you have some in the US, in Brazil, So he wants to run, but come on, he's 75. In 2022, he's going to be 77. He still hopes to run, but of course, he's been there for too long. There's a lot of... He has been his name has been so tainted for lots of, for the corruption scandals and for, years and years of character assassination, actually. I do not think that I do not think that the condemnations that he has suffered in the hands of Judge Moro are gonna stick, because I really think that the judge, the whole car wash operation, in its advance against PT, really got, water. He really went, against. I don't know the expression, but it really, blew up in their faces, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to be in jail. But I also think he's a little bit too old to be, the hope for the future. I feel extremely sad when people say this. And, a huge chunk of the Brazilian left is still thinking that he is, he's the hope. And I mean, what the fuck is this old, white dude who's 77? And don't we have other leaders? This is what I'm thinking. But I don't know. I think he's going to be free, and I think he's going to still be a very important political person. I hope he's not the candidate.
Okay, interesting. I mean, are there other leaders? What is the status? Because we saw with Haddadi, right, that he was his, I guess maybe this speaks to your point, but he was his handpicked candidate, and he didn't do well. Although, in terms of optics, I mean, they couldn't have seemed more different. Like Haddadi, what was his back? I mean, he was a total, like Lula was a union worker, is missing a finger or two, right, from like an on-the-job injury, and I think it has an amazingly gravelly voice. And then Haddadi just looks like a flaneur dandy. I mean, I met him. He's a very nice guy, and seems like his politics are good. But who are the other people who can become leaders? Also, 77-year-old white guy. There is a 77-year-old white guy who I'm pretty fond of. Bernie Sanders. I agree, though, we need new blood. But
what happened? No, I mean, what happened to? Is it because the humanity is getting older, or is it because these white dudes are not really forming young, varied leaders? And I'm sure I have to say that Lula really worked against every female leader that rose in PT.
Oh, really?
He did. Oh yeah. Many of them left of the good.
By the way, PT is the Workers' Party for
the Workers'
people
Party.
Mm.
Sorry. So there were many, growing female leaders in the past. They were all outcast. Lula decided to handpick his successor amongst, he didn't pick a person who wanted to be president. He picked somebody who he knew would be president in spite of herself, which is Dilma. And he never worked for other leaders. This is the truth. He sat down on the spot for himself. But these guys did the same. The Bolivarians, they all did the same. Chavez did the same. Evo Morales did the same. Anything. But these guys didn't really think about giving a power to other generation or other leaders. Now, only recently, Lula is 75. Only recently he's actually working towards a new leader, and this guy is very interesting. His name is oh my God, I totally forgot. Guilherme Boulos. He was a candidate for the mayor, being the mayor of São Paulo, the biggest city in Brazil, biggest city in South America. He actually comes from the landless movement. So he occupies empty houses. He squats, like the squatting movement. They squat empty buildings for people who are landless. He's very lefty, and he fared extremely well in the elections, like showing vigor and youth, and being somebody who wants to be president. Because Haddad also didn't want to be president. He was also put there by Lula. So he doesn't pick the people who really want to be president. He picked people who will follow his orders. Haddad didn't want to be president. He said it several times. He cried the day that he lost. He cried and he gave a speech and he said, "I did this because I respect and I love Lula, and somebody needed to do it." But can you think about being a president or a governor or a mayor? It's such a huge thing. And if you don't want it, and there's plenty of people who want it, you should
Right.
Support these people.
Right.
I mean, sorry, by the way, there's a delay on my end, so I'm sorry that if I'm speaking over you, I realize that I don't realize it in real time. Not to be a straight white man, not to lula you. But I was just gonna say, I mean, I actually kind of disagree with you on that slightly, because I always say, like, you want a reluctant administrator. Like, people who really want to be school principal always kind of weird me out. And Roseanne de Moro, I don't think it's her quote, but she cites it is a quote that she cites, which is that leaders aren't made, they're cornered. Or heroes aren't made, they're cornered, which I kind of think is true. Like, I always like that Bernie kind of didn't want to run. Although it's different, because Bernie ran out of not to do anyone a favor. So that is different. He didn't run because he respected someone who urged him to run. He ran because he wanted Warren, he stood back so that Warren could run. He ran because he knew that, the Democrats were failing and that Hillary was I think a vulnerable candidate. And I think he tried to, and he succeeded in this, but couldn't get over her high unfavorability ratings, which is that he wanted to, I think, make her more electable. So, yeah.
No, I mean, and I do think that Lula is a great leader. It's just a fact that he has been a great leader since the foundation of the Workers' Party 40 years ago. And funnily enough, no other great leader, rose in the Workers' Party since. And this is deliberate. It's not like that. Somebody thinks this up and works in that direction. But yeah, I don't know.
Maria, and then
I think of Dilma, man. Dilma, she was there. I talked to her. Everybody who interviews her, she says, I didn't want to be president, but history put me in that position, whatever. And then, she wasn't happy. She was not happy. She was taking a huge toll by herself. And, on top of that, all the sexism and all the huge aggression that she got from the male establishment. And then when she left, it's funny because, this was a huge violent act. It was a sexist violent act, her impeachment, ridiculous and absurd. And then, if you look at her now, you can see that she's better. She didn't want to be there. She was just doing she was a good warrior. She was doing her part, but
right. Good foot soldier, yeah. Jack, I know you have to go, so we will let you go.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Natalia. It's so nice to meet you. So good to hear from you. It's such an interesting perspective. So good to talk to you. Thanks again for having me, Katie. Always.
And also, we got to kick out the straight white man. We got to kick out the straight white man. So
what I'm doing now is I'm platforming voices that need to be heard, and so it's because I choose to platform you that you can now all speak. So you're welcome. See you later.
Thank you.
See you later. Nice to meet you. Have a good one.
Letting us hold this space. Yeah. This is interesting. And then Marielle Franco, right? She was a rising leader. And she was assassinated. And then you have people like what's his name? Joe Williams, John Williams, who was the LGBT, the gay congressman. Okay, yeah, exactly. Who fled, right? Who fled to Europe because he feared for his life. And then David Miranda, who's Glenn Greenwald's husband, filled in for her. They're not part of the Workers' Party. They're part of a different left-wing party.
Yeah,
are they part of the Workers' Party?
It's a more left-wing party. It's called PSOL, PSOL. And it's kind of like, what PT was once, but also the Workers' Party went to the government and spent 16 years in the government. So, of course, it became much more, much less fierce while it was in government. And PSOL kept being like the left-wing vigorous party. By the way, this guy that I talked about, Guilherme Boulos, he is from PSOL. He's not from PT. And Lula is super supporting him.
Oh, got it. Got it. What party is AMLO from in Mexico? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, but I can totally Google.
I don't remember.
Oh, he's the NRM, National Regeneration Movement.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's almost like the Workers' Party, it seems like not quite as old, not quite as corrupt, not quite as reactionary, but somewhat like PRI, maybe, like a couple decades ago. PRI of Mexico.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's also, I mean, when you stay so long in power, 16 years, I mean, power corrupts, we know that. So.
Right. Right. What about, there's been so much, and you've been so generous with your time, so I'll just ask one more question, but also would love to have you back on. But what can you just talk about the homophobia? I mean, it seems like, in parallel to something that parallels Trump is that Bolsonaro has kind of, it's not that these things weren't present, but he kind of sanctioned them and emboldened people with a lot of racist, reactionary, bigoted views. So, but his lane seems to be, I mean, he said racist things, he has said misogynist things, but his real contribution seems to be in the realm of homophobia. And there have been kind of increased hate crimes. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. The same did happen here. Bolsonaro is a homophobic. He denies being a homophobic, but he has been his entire life, and he has had many different, different times that he said homophobic things. Now he doesn't. Now he's more like he does these little jokes in which if you take the vaccine you're gonna start if the men take the vaccine they're gonna start talking in a thinner voice. There's all this homophobic subtext to what he says, and of course they fight in Congress
or text. Yeah.
So they fight. For instance, they fought in the Supreme Court against a bill that would make homophobia a crime, and he's spoken against it. And of course, he supports the evangelical faith, which is now starting a big struggle, not only here, but in Latin America, saying that a law that punishes homophobia is actually a law that interferes with faith. So basically, they're claiming that this is unconstitutional because it interfered. So my faith is to be homophobic. That's what they're saying. And so even though he's not saying, I don't think he's like acting proactively so homophobic, but all of his supporters, strong supporters, are acting politically, lobbying, acting within the Supreme Court, paying a lot of money for homophobic NGOs, and actively trying to defeat any law that will punish homophobia. So this is what's happening. And yes, he has encouraged people to be more homophobic in that sense, and also lobby for homophobia in a more concerted way. But I have to say that in Brazil, something similar to the US happened that I liked when you said this in the beginning. Not only the media has become more fierce, we have seen the judicial system, lawyers and judges and civil society organizations become more fierce as well. So you've had lots of judges from the first, the lower level, the second level, start like really, ruling in favor of homosexual and minority rights. Like they felt that they needed to do this. They needed to be more proactively. And also there's more associations of judges that are, getting together and organizing in favor of civil rights in Brazil as a response to what Bolsonaro is doing. Of course, there's no match because, it's a presidentialism. The guy has the key and the button and the pen. But there is a lot of response from the judicial system and the civil society.
one more question. But also, didn't Bolsonaro say something like when he was elected but wasn't in power yet? Didn't he say something like men should all like get walking hand in hand out of their system because once I'm president, you can't do that? I should Google that.
I'm not aware of that. No. I think it may be fake news. But his minister for family, she says that women should wear pink and men should wear blue. But this is kind of it's kind of bullshit.
Right. God. He told someone, what did he say? You have a terribly homosexual face. What is this? I'll look for it because.
No, but that's like him talking. No, he's talking to a journalist, and then a journalist asks him a tough question and says, "Hey, you look. I can say that you look like a homosexual. Is this kind of thing." He doesn't say, "I'm going to lock up homosexuals."
Yeah.
Get out of here. He actually, to be honest, during his campaign, he actually denied that he was ever homophobic and sat down and had the support and talked with homosexuals who were supporting him. There was homosexuals for Bolsonaro, these kinds of things. Or even like, oh, people say that I'm homophobic, but I'm not. Haha.
Right.
But he is now. He is. It's so deep within him that he can't prevent making jokes about it.
Right. And the other thing that people, I guess, should know, and I forgot to bring up, but is that he really is pro-torture, right? Like he was part of the military dictatorship, and he said some very, very pro-torture things, and wished that there had been more people killed instead of just tortured, right?
He's unabashed. He's a supporter of the military dictatorship. He says it was not a dictatorship. He praises them. He has ordered the army to celebrate the day of the coup, which is the 31st of March. He has met people who were tortured, has denied that there has been torture. He's a strong supporter of the military coup, and he and his kids have repeatedly hinted at an interest in staging a coup. So when these people were gathering in front of the Supreme Court to actually ask for military coup, he was there. He has been reported by a very relevant magazine here in Brazil to have actually once decided that he wanted to send the army to close the Supreme Court. So yeah, he's. I mean, if he was strong enough, he would stage a coup. I don't think he's strong enough. I think he's a delusional, crazy, weak, old-fashioned, very scared man. I don't feel sorry because but I can't. But he's done so much bad for.
You almost feel sorry for him.
I almost feel sorry for him. And if you compare him to Trump is a successful man. Bolsonaro is not even that. He's a person who is seen by everybody in the government, apart from a very small group, as a very stupid and lost guy. And this shows, people pity him. It's very sad. He's an easy person to maneuver. That's why he's still president.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking. So I'm looking at this article in Pink News, which is a British LGBTQ newspaper. And it says that he described himself as, quote, homophobic and very proud of it. He also said, I would be incapable of loving a gay son. I prefer that he die in an accident.
Yeah, but these are all
he also
quotes
said
from
he
like
would.
20 years ago when he was like, he
Oh,
rose
got it.
on
Okay.
being homophobic and polemic and blah, blah, blah.
Homophobic.
Now, yeah. And now in the since
he
his
left that
campaign, he
behind.
he denies it. He says, "Oh, I never said that," or "Oh, it was a joke."
Yeah.
And today he wouldn't
Right.
say that thing the same way, but he thinks. We
Sure.
know, everybody knows he thinks like that, but he doesn't say it anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been great, and I really want to thank you for coming on, but also wanted to ask you one last question, which someone posted, if that's okay.
Of course.
If you can talk about the Amazon, this is a question from Christian Elan Ortiz. Can Natalia talk about the Amazon and ways we can have global progressive socialist cooperation and solidarity with the people and nature of the region? Really easy question, really quick one. Sorry. That's it.
Absolutely. Okay. Maybe I can tell you some initiatives that could be supported or something. The Amazon is going really badly. Bolsonaro is destroying all the public organs that were working actively to stop deforestation, illegal mining. He's slashing the workers who would go and chase the bad guys who do land grabbing and illegally steal wood. We are working on investigating some of the criminals that have been let loose because of the Bolsonaro slashing of the organs that should fight them. The indigenous peoples have been completely abandoned. They are self-organizing right now. They're self-organizing to defend their territory, to fight COVID. It's a horrible situation. I would urge you, if you want to support, to help any Brazilian group to go and search for NGOs that support the Brazilian indigenous peoples, because they are the ones that have been most left out and most attacked by Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is he has stopped any land demarcation for the indigenous, which is a very pressing issue in Brazil. And his government is actually working towards removing some land that has already been titled to the indigenous. So I think they are the ones that need our support the most, the native indigenous, and they've been attacked strongly. And we all know that having a land that belongs to indigenous peoples always means that the nature is going to be preserved, because that's how they live. It's part of who they are. So I'd say support the Brazilian indigenous, and also in other areas of South America. They really need your support. They're getting more political and more organized, but they're there to fend for themselves because they're completely abandoned by the state right now.
Well, thank you so much. Let's see. I'm bringing in my next guest, but you guys can say hi to each other. Hi and bye if you want. Aaron of the Gray Zone. I want to introduce you guys. Aaron, you should have Natalia on your show because she's great on Pushback.
Hi, Natalia.
I think Aaron's just speechless. Oh, no, there it is. Yeah.
Hello, Aaron.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
But anyway, obrigada, as Carne Verde said in the chat. And keep us up to date on what you're doing. And thank you again so much for all your hard work. And everyone should follow her. I put your Twitter handle in there.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you, and
thank you.
Great show. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. All righty. Aaron, welcome back.
Always cool to see.
Aaron is hyped.
Always cool to see a guest who's like not among the 7 people that we all interview every single week. So
right, yeah.
I look forward to.
She's great.
I look forward to watching that one.
Yeah. Aaron, so glad to have you on. One of the 7 state. I would say you're in the state. One of the staples of the show, though, which is good. What are you working on? I realize I just hadn't had you on in a long time, and the people were demanding. The people have spoken, and they're always asking for more mate. So anything? What's on your mind? Just wanted to have you on to touch base. I can, of course, ask you specific questions about what you're working on, but
well, I'm always working on anything to do with Russiagate and unhinged, unfounded allegations against Russia that distract from systemic injustices and dysfunction at home and advance a dangerous new Cold War and regime change agenda abroad. So I could talk more about that in a second, but what's on my mind right now is, again, the damage Trump just did with this stunt he pulled, pretending that he wanted, or claiming he wanted to give everyone $2,000 checks, thereby delaying the stimulus bill and depriving countless people of the dire benefits they needed as they're waiting on Trump and Congress to work out a deal. And then he just caves today. So it's like,
yeah,
I guess there's a message here. How many times? So the problem is, like, for us leftists who hate neoliberals, right? It's been, going back to the campaign when Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, he was talking about being opposed to intervention, whereas Hillary Clinton was like the personification of evil military intervention abroad, whether it's supporting the Iraq War or Libya or Syria. And Trump was talking a big game, like, yeah, I'm against all that. And so there's so many times when Trump offers this like rhetorical appeal to people and thinking that he's like outdoing the Democrats from the left, because he says sometimes the truth, right. He does. But every single time it requires actual political capital and actual political action, he caves. He's completely subservient to his narrow far right wing of the Republican Party, and he doesn't do anything to stand up to them. So here he made a big display about giving everyone $2,000 checks. Everyone got excited. He was going to work out a deal with Democrats. He caved. Republicans told him to sign the bill, and he did. And so all that ended up doing was hurting the most vulnerable, as Trump always does. So I guess, it's just like, this speaks to, Katie, like we talked before the election about the importance of voting to defeat Trump, and that meant voting for Biden. And a lot of people were upset by that. They interpreted that to mean as if somehow we were arguing that Biden was a solution to a problem. All Biden was not Trump and not the Republicans. So, this to me is a perfect kind of coda for Trump of all talk, rhetorically sounding appealing for a second, but ultimately hurting the most vulnerable people. That's Trump.
Right.
That's part of Trump in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's true. And I think that like a lot of people, I think it was a useful rhetorical device to say to the Dems, like, are you really going to be outdone by Trump? I don't think anyone thought that he was, a populist. I think that, again, he has, because he doesn't have any filter, or kind of like, he is beholden to his donors, as you were pointing out. But, he can occasionally, I think, be used to attempt to shame the Dems despite that. But there's a difference between like pointing to that and believing in him as a, some kind of populist.
Right. That's a good point. It's true. It's true. Like what he said was an opportunity to show how paltry the Democratic leadership plan was. It's true. That is true. But it's just like, it's, I guess I'm taking issue with putting hope that he will do anything positive, except provide an opportunity to highlight Democratic hypocrisy. Because in terms of action, he does absolutely nothing that's positive.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Kate says, this is a good idea, actually. When are you going to do a roundtable with your dads? That would rule. It would rule. A Gabor Mate, James Halper roundtable. They could have a huge fight over medication.
Are they not on the same side on that?
I mean, my dad's an MD psychiatrist.
Wait, so but your father's not. Gabor is not anti-medication.
Oh, okay. He's not.
Yeah. So we can hash this out. We can hash this out right here. No, Gabor is not anti-medication.
Yeah, right.
It's a people associate him with ayahuasca. Well, like people associated him with ayahuasca because he got into that to initially to help treat patients with serious heroin problems, and he saw huge benefits there. But he's not like anti-medication. No, medication can do great things for people.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, let's have that roundtable one day. Yeah.
Yeah, we should do that. That would be really funny and actually really fun. And what's the latest with Syria? Anyone talking about that? I'm still amazed, by the way. I often point to this is like, I just don't understand how this isn't more of a story. Like, why you are such a voice in the wilderness on this.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I'm a good example of why this story is so marginalized, because I didn't really get into talking about Syria really, substantively until relatively recently, the last, couple of years or so. I sort of stayed out of it, partly because it just took a while for me to fully understand it and to do my own independent reading. But once I did, Syria is the biggest propaganda deception and one of the most criminal acts of recent history. It's unbelievable. The U.S. and its allies spent billions of dollars on a dirty war, arming Wahhabi Contras that destroyed the country. Now we've imposed these medieval sanctions that essentially punish Syrian civilians for the fact that their government defeated our Contras, fanatic jihadists in Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Not that we were directly supporting ISIS, but the impact of waging a dirty war in the country was ultimately to help enable ISIS. And of course, ISIS grew out of the Iraq War, which was our fault. So we destroyed a country, and then now as it's trying to rebuild, we're preventing it from reconstructing, deliberately targeting the electricity sector, preventing the import of wheat, preventing the export of oil. We've actually stolen Syria's oil. The U.S. is occupying northeastern Syria, which is the breadbasket of Syria, where a lot of wheat is produced, and also where the oil reserves are. And we're holding on to that just basically to keep Syria even more impoverished. It's sadistic, but the problem is, an example like me, not really talking about it until late, is because so many people got duped by the propaganda that the U.S. and its allies spent a lot of money on disseminating. And so much of the corporate media went along with it, and so much of the lefty media went along with this idea that we were supporting freedom fighters fighting this evil dictatorship, which was a complete scam. And so there's just, too many people would be embarrassed if we were to acknowledge the reality of what's going on now. So that's why everyone should avert their gaze. And that's why, even though what we're doing to Syria is basically what we did to Iraq in the 1990s, deliberately targeting its civilian population in a bid to squeeze them, to make them suffer so much that in the hopes that they'll rise up against their government and their government will not be able to govern. But it's just not going to happen. I mean, Assad is supported by Russia. He's supported by Iran. He's getting some support from China. So even from taking away the moral aspect of it, taking away the fact that we're being sadistic, it's just even practically, it's not even going to work. But it's just, that's what we can do because we're the empire. And when I expose, as I've been doing with this OPCW story, a deception that is used to help wage the dirty war and justify the sanctions, like basically where you have this allegation of a chemical weapons attack by the Syrian government. The OPCW's own investigators go and investigate. They find evidence that undermines the allegation against the Syrian government. They find evidence that it was in fact staged by the extremist militants who we effectively support. And when all that gets exposed in a series of leaks and we have documents, complete media silence. And so, yeah, as you say, it's pretty much me and a few others who are covering it, because again, it's something that strikes at a core narrative of the propaganda that is used to justify the dirty war. And it's shameful how widespread the silence is and how so many people just parrot reflexively the propaganda instead of, applying minimal skepticism, because it's such, well, the reality is such a crime what is being done to Syria.
Yeah, and I mean, just like, you mentioned the parallel with Iraq, and people were called sodomists for opposing war with Iraq, and you have constantly, you and I have both been blessed with being called Assadists. I mean, I also wonder how much you avoided this because it is such a kind of toxic radioactive issue, which is, if you say something, you write something about this, you were kind of immediately swarmed on social media, and perhaps by media or some figures who are not just like randos online, as a genocide denier. How much did that kind of I mean, I know I have felt that with various issues, especially this one. Like, I don't want to go there. And then at a certain point, though, it's just like, okay, we have to go there, in large part because people are trying to silence this.
Yeah. In my own case, it was a combination of not having enough information on my own. So at first in the first years of the dirty war, I was kind of skeptical of what I was hearing, but I didn't know enough to really weigh in. And then I kind of bought into some of the propaganda. Yeah. I kind of bought into it because there was just so much of it, and it was everywhere, and everybody bought into it. Even Max Blumenthal bought into it for a bit, Right. And so, but then once Max did his own, research, and him and Ben Norton started reporting on it, and our friend Rania too, and then seeing them get really viciously attacked, and people attempting to really destroy their careers. It wasn't just like name calling; it was actually trying to destroy their livelihoods and smear them, and seeing what they face. Yeah, that did have an effect on me, and that did kind of push me to more of the sidelines for a bit. But then, as you say, eventually it's just, in my case, I did my own research, I did my own reading, and it's just, the reality is just, like, compared to what we were told about Syria, it's just like, it's like, to say night and day is not even to do it justice. It's just, it's a massive crime what we did to Syria, and it should be exposed. And in my case, I happened to come across sources with access to the OPCW, and through them I've gotten a bunch of really damning leaks exposing this one specific story, this cover-up. But it's a really important one because these chemical weapons allegations against Syria are part of how the US and its allies have waged the proxy war. So, it's hard to justify fighting on the same side of Al-Qaeda when really that's literally what we were doing. There's even an email from Jake Sullivan to Hillary Clinton from 2012 or 2013. He literally says, I'm quoting, Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria, or we're on Al-Qaeda's side in Syria. So that's what US policy was. And that's who would have, if we had been successful in Syria, that's who would have taken over the country. And it's hard to speak about that openly and to acknowledge that. So instead, to justify continuing this dirty war, you've had a huge amount of effort put behind lodging these allegations of chemical weapons attacks against Syria, when in all the major cases, they've all been debunked afterwards by journalism and internal leaks. So Seymour Hersh totally debunked the first major allegation of in 2013 in Ghouta, where hundreds were killed. And Obama was going to bomb Syria over this, but he didn't. And the official story we got back then was that Obama decided he wanted to go to Congress. And because Congress wasn't going to approve military strikes, he wasn't going to bomb. That's actually not why. We learned later the reason Obama didn't bomb Syria is because James Clapper came to him and said, the intelligence that Assad did it is not a slam dunk, which was a deliberate reference to George Tenet telling George W. Bush, that the intelligence about Iraq was a slam dunk. And you fast forward to Duma, the last major chemical weapons allegation in Syria. Well, that's been completely undermined by, scores of leaks from inside the OPCW and brave inspectors from the OPCW challenging a cover-up of their own investigation, and the cover-up was undertaken under direct U.S. pressure. So, that's why there's so much now energy spent trying to discredit the whistleblowers and discredit me. And, people now call me an Assadist. Well, I call them a sadist. If you support sanctioning Syria after the U.S. spent literally billions of dollars, sometimes $1 billion a year, but from the CIA, arming Wahhabi Contras to destroy a country, it's unconscionable, and you are a sadist. And that's what anybody who uses a sadist against people who don't like dirty wars and don't like sanctions, anybody who uses the term a sadist is saying that they are a sadist.
I like that. It's good. That's good. Did you come up with that? Like, did you remember the moment where you're like, I'll call them a sadist?
It was sometime on Twitter. It was a Twitter moment.
Yeah. Those are great. Yeah. I mean, I think that like, like you're right. I mean, regardless of what you think of Assad, like, how do you think that sanctions ever? I don't get how people think that sanctions are ever the answer, unless there's like a really organized call for it from not from expats or not from like dissidents, but from the people within the country. Sure. That's a different situation.
Yeah,
but that's not what there is here.
That's not what there is here. No, we only, and the thing that the problem is, generally in our media, we only ever hear from people who support our own government's geopolitical aims. In this case, destabilizing Syria, overthrowing its government. There certainly are Syrians that support that, you know. And look, and when you meet someone whose family has been tortured in a Syrian government prison, or who lost a loved one to the Syrian state, you know, like, it's totally understandable why someone would want to see Assad gone. But this idea that a majority of Syrians support a dirty war on their country, and having literally their only option being someone like Al Qaeda taking over their country, I mean, no, there's just no evidence at all that that's what a majority of Syrians support. And you know, but unfortunately, it's been a propaganda blockade that prevents an acknowledgement of that reality. But just ask ourselves, like, would we want to be ruled, like, we don't like Donald Trump, would we want to be ruled by Al Qaeda? Would we want someone, would we support someone arming Al Qaeda to come into our country to over? No, of course not. So why do we accept that standard for Syria? What gives us the right to do that? We don't have that right. You know, the best thing we can do for any country.
Yeah, or would we want to be?
Sorry,
no, I cut you off. Sorry. No, you.
I forgot. I'll tell you.
You said the best thing to do for any country is.
The best thing to do for any country, unless, as you say, there's like this like massive, overwhelming majority of the population demanding sanctions or something like that, is to leave it alone and let people handle their own business.
Yeah.
And, you know, let people live. Don't deny people food and medicine. Doctors are literally smuggling medical equipment into Syria right now because they can't, because the U.S.-led sanctions bar them from importing it. And there are bread lines for hours. And people will say, this is the playbook every single time. It's like, we destroy a country with a dirty war, then we impose sanctions, and then there are bread lines and there's deprivation. And we say, oh, look at this government and their economic mismanagement. They're so corrupt.
And we point to that, yeah.
Like, of course, the Assad government is corrupt. I mean, you know, it's hard to find an authoritarian government that isn't. But the point is, they don't want their people starving to death and having to line up for hours for bread. That doesn't benefit them. They want to stay in power. And autocrats to stay in power have to do something for their population. What's preventing people from getting bread is the fact that we're keeping their country impoverished and barring them from importing basics, you know, food, medicine. So it's like, it's so cynical. And that's why if you read the New York Times or the Washington Post, and they talk about how hard things are in Syria right now, at the bottom, you'll always find a mention, maybe in passing, of the sanctions. You know, the sanctions have helped contribute to the overall situation, when really the sanctions
haven't helped. Yeah, right.
Like, the sanctions should be the headline. U.S. sanctions are starving Syrians.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, also, like you said, you know, we don't like Donald Trump. Would we want to be punished, like have humanitarian suffering? Would we want to not have access to food or to medical supplies? Like, do we think that would help? the people or the resistance. Also, it can also have the opposite. I mean, both have happened, right? Like it has led to destabilization and like overthrow, demand for change, whatever. But it also can serve the opposite. Like in Cuba, for instance, it was definitely a useful tool for. It was great propaganda for Castro to point to. It was. I mean, our policy with Cuba is a bit insane and not unintentionally masochistic, maybe. But you know what? It's a great thing to point to of how much you're picked on by the.
I think Cuba was intentionally masochistic. It was. I mean, actually, there's even an internal U.S. government document that talks about that. About actually, and this is a playbook that was imported elsewhere by the U.S. is intentionally causing civilian suffering to stir up unrest against the government. That's the playbook. That's what it is. They do it everywhere. They do it. They did it to Cuba, and amazingly, Cuba withstood it. They're doing it now in Venezuela. They've done it for many years to Nicaragua because Nicaragua committed the crime of defeating our Contras back in the 1980s. They're doing it. They're trying to do it.
Contras, yeah.
They're trying to do it to Iran now, and they're doing it to Syria. And they do it every single time. The only noble case I can think of would be South Africa, apartheid South Africa, where you had, I think,
that's what I was thinking.
support amongst the black majority for sanctions against the white minority. And I think it would be valid in Palestine too, where the indigenous population, I don't know what the poll numbers are on BDS, but certainly the indigenous population, I think, would support some sort of global action taken against Israel to get it to end the occupation and comply with international law. In the case of Syria, if you look at actual polls, it's a divided country. There is a sizable number that hates Assad, but there's a sizable number that doesn't, and actually doesn't see any other alternative. Because again, as John Kerry said, he gave an amazing. There's an amazing audio of him speaking to some Syrian opposition activists, and he even says that we were watching ISIS encroach on Damascus, and we were hoping that the more ISIS gained in Syria, the more that would make Assad open to negotiating his departure. So Kerry is basically saying that we were consciously using ISIS to change another country's government. And then he says the reason Russia intervened in Syria is because they didn't want a Daesh government, ISIS government. That's why, according to John Kerry, Russia intervened. So John Kerry was basically saying that the U.S. was willing to stand by and let ISIS take over the Syrian government.
Right.
Who can support that? And who, if you were in Syria,
right?
Like, who would want to live under ISIS or the other alternative, Al Qaeda? That was the next strongest force. It's insane. It's totally insane. And now, because we lost, because Russia's intervention was successful, now we want to punish the Syrian civilians for our own defeat. That's why I say that anybody who supports that is a sadist.
Right. No, when I said masochist, I meant like self-defeating with Cuba. Like it didn't even serve the purposes. It wasn't even good for capitalism. That's what I meant with yeah. But no, it's definitely sadistic. I mean, I guess to be charitable to Kerry, which is barely charitable, it still is a totally sordid, unacceptable thing. But one could think like, oh, well, this will be used to pressure Assad to negotiate and help a government that's not necessarily ISIS or Al Qaeda to come to power. Which again, that's not okay. But I'm just saying to like the best view we could have of that, right, is that it would be used as leverage.
Yeah, but it's like what kind of a sick government tries to use ISIS as leverage? Imagine someone trying to use ISIS.
Right. I agree. I agree. I'm just
imagine someone trying to use ISIS as leverage against us. Like we're gonna watch as ISIS rolls in on Washington D.C. and when you're ready
it's
to go,
totally unacceptable and unconscionable. Yeah. Yes. No, I mean, I'm not defending or justifying it. I'm thinking that, I'm just saying that that's that's the least sadistic. It's still not okay. But I'm just like it. Yeah. Just wanted to give that, not extend that olive branch at all, but like make a kind of, to concede something to them, but only to then further, I'm trying to cover all our bases. in case someone comes back and is like,
well,
that wasn't what it was. Anyway, I'm gonna get smeared as a carryist. Forget a sadist. Don't want to be called a carryist. That's far worse. Just kidding.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there also opposition to Assad, like anti-Assad opposition that still doesn't want regime change?
Of course.
Or Al Qaeda or ISIS?
Yeah, of course. Of course. And honestly, the only people at this point who pretend otherwise are a bunch of losers on Twitter who spend their time harassing people like you and me, harassing you for the crime of talking to me or Rania or Max Blumenthal. That's I mean, the war is over. They lost. They were on the side of.
We should. I mean, to give them their due, they're not just those weirdos on Twitter. Like, some of them actually are powerful in like the NGO or the council world. And they did cancel, like they've had some success. I mean, they didn't get Useful Idiots canceled, but they got like Max's book events canceled. They have an effect, and they do make people. I think they make people like this. There's this ick factor, to go back to Matt's point on this, but
I got it. Yeah, I got it. But it's like
By the way,
it just speaks to how brittle we are as Westerners. That, and I include myself in this too. That just it's like a schoolyard mentality. Someone calls you a name, and that has the effect of intimidating you to the effect where it governs your professional decisions, especially working in media. I've fallen victim to it. I didn't get involved in this issue until relatively recently. The dirty war in Syria turns 10 next year. So I get it, but it just speaks to how brittle we all are. That like, meanwhile, other people around the country, like other people around the world are subjected to bombings, sanctions, death, real life consequences. And we're concerned
it's the least we can do, right?
And we're concerned about being called names. And so now, honestly, when someone calls me a name about this issue, I welcome it. And I actually, because it speaks to just like, it speaks to the fact that I'm doing something that's challenging their sadism. So good. I'm glad to be called a name now. And I only regret that I didn't get involved.
You're a thorn in the side of empire.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't give myself that much credit, but it's like, I
said that, you didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't saying that in a woe is me or woe is Aaron or like, keep us in your thoughts way. I was just saying this as like, it's not just harassment online. Like I think we need to kind of acknowledge that they have that it's not just online. Like, again, not like Max is out there crying for himself, but like, they do get book events canceled. Like there is it speaks to, you talk about it speaking to a brittleness, but it also speaks to, I think, a scary phenomenon of cowardice, laziness, not wanting to look into something, a kind of McCarthyite mentality. Which again, I don't think, I also think that when you look into it, it is this like watershed moment, right? Where like, at first, maybe you don't want to look into it. I mean, speaking for myself, I kind of want to avoid it. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get called this, called that. But then when you look into it, or like when you, Aaron, look into it, and then I read your stuff or I read other stuff, and then you realize how unfair the like stifling of discussion on that is, it then made me want to like highlight the work you're doing even more. So I think there's like a bell curve or something. I don't even know if that's right. A V curve. I don't know about curves.
Well, I wonder if actually Russiagate helped, if the collapse of Russiagate helped, because that was a case where if you dissented from the prevailing narrative that Trump was a Russian asset, we were attacked as well. We were called, traitors, Russian dupes. It was fanatic. And
useful idiots.
Useful idiots. And that's a case where basically everybody else, including many of our leftist media colleagues, a lot of friendships have been ended in the last couple of years and maybe even recent weeks. Anybody who dissented was like cast aside, and we were attacked. But of course, we were it's not as if we were like weighing into something somewhat complex or somewhat multi-layered and, you know, sort of like, and something that requires a lot of heavy reading and analysis like Syria. This was a fucking dumb conspiracy theory about Trump being a Russian agent. It was the dumbest thing in the world, and yet it was controversial to challenge that. And it was controversial to question the notion that Russian email hacking or alleged Russian email hacking and dumb social media posts amounted to this invasion of our democracy.
Right.
But so I think when that collapsed, it didn't fully collapse, obviously, but it collapsed somewhat with the collapse of the collusion aspect of it, the collusion conspiracy theory. I think that opened up space for a little bit more skepticism. You saw more people pretending that they were against Russiagate all along than actually were, when really it was like, you know, 5 people. But like, I mean, in the media spaces, of course, anybody who's not in media probably probably a higher percentage of getting it right than those who did work in the media. So I think that maybe opened up more room for courage. And, you know, now it's just, the truth is impossible to contain. This OPCW story, which really exposes a major deception, it's so overwhelming, the facts, like, that nobody can contest it. So, like, when I got an article about it, when I wrote an article about the OPCW scandal in the Nation this summer, you know, like, there was this, you know, apoplectic reaction online from blue check regime change apologists, sadists, but they can't do anything. They can't challenge anything. They, you know, some people I think tried to have it retracted, but they can't. They don't have that power anymore, you know, and maybe now with Biden, and also now they also can't hide behind Trump. You know, like, there's always been this thing where if you criticize Russia, you were accused of doing Trump's bidding. They can't hide behind that anymore. Trump's gone now. Yeah. Now it's going to be Joe Biden in office. So I think a lot of the rhetorical.
They'll still try though and say that we're like sowing the seeds of revolt, or, you know, or enabling Trumpism or Trump supporters. Yeah. But it's not going to be quite as effective. I mean, I don't want to be like overly dramatic. But I do think we don't know how many publications would not publish you. Like, it's great that you're in the Nation and that they stood by your article, but think about how many places you probably couldn't get published because of this groupthink.
No doubt that many important leftist media institutions like Democracy Now!, like The Intercept, have completely sold out on some key issues. Not on every issue. On some issues, they're great, especially domestic issues. Like on domestic issues, it's really easy to be progressive, and everybody is, right? Once you cross U.S. borders and you get into something that touches on U.S. empire and imperialism, which really strikes at the core of how this U.S. myth sustains itself, that we are exceptional, we have the right to be all around the world and, you know, overthrowing governments and starving their populations, that's when you have a real breakdown in these outlets' commitment to adversarial journalism. It's, you know, I could make fun of these outlets forever and how derelict they've been on Syria and on Russiagate and on pretty much anywhere where the U.S. is waging a proxy war, is trying to, you know, install a more friendly government to a defiant, independent government, you know, whether it's like Syria or Iran or Venezuela. It's interesting how the progressive values stop at our borders. Like look at Bolivia. Like, remember back when Bolivia happened, like the coup a year ago, a straight up coup, a fascist regime comes in, and how many, you know, leftists that we know were talking about nuance. We need to see this. We need to see this in a nuanced way. Evo Morales did bad things, you know. It wasn't.
Yeah, well, on the one hand, Morales,
he calls it a coup, but is it a coup? You know, like, it's just amazing how easily people get duped for imperial propaganda. And
I know.
It's kind of like it's, you know, like, I have a lot of theories about that, but it's and it's come up again recently with the attacks on Jimmy Dore, where people are trying to bring up what's interesting. See, Jimmy and I don't agree on everything. I thought he was totally wrong when it comes to Biden versus Trump. But whatever. Jimmy's also been, I think, been right on so many issues, way ahead of everybody else. And when people were attacking Jimmy
Syria, for instance,
the forced divorce thing, they bring up all these areas where he's been right and they've been wrong, like Syria.
I know.
You know?
I know. It's such like how self-important and insulated from the truth and irresponsible are you to actually point to an area where he was right?
Yeah.
Like, have ideological differences, that's fine, but to smear someone as like, again, I gotta say, I like this line, a bunch of sadists out there are smearing him as a sadist. And again, just like transport yourself back to Iraq. Would you think about the people who would call people like us Saddamists.
Mm-hmm.
We know that you can be, that doesn't make you a Saddam Hussein lover to oppose the war in Iraq. It's the same thing with Syria. But yeah, again, it's like this, it's this smearing, neo-McCarthyite, vague, toxifying, making someone radioactive, beyond the pale, without providing any evidence, right? So Jimmy Dore got a donation from an organization that is opposes regime change, not to sound all Russian-y, as Joanne Reed would say about my using the term regime change, but I mean it's absurd. I mean, like, do people were people who opposed the war in Iraq? Were they if you got an award from Code Pink or something? Would that mean that you were getting Saddam money?
Exactly, and the thing is, like the sad thing about that for me too is that people who have been lodging these allegations against Jimmy, a lot of them I think have had terrible positions, but I don't cancel them for having bad positions in my view on Russiagate or on imperialism or for even in some cases, like, you know, one of Jimmy's critics literally did like Anna Kasparian did like this paid gig for a NATO conference where she gave a friendly interview to Madeleine Albright and basically promoted NATO. I don't even think she should be canceled for that because whatever, you know, I think people should be people's actions and views should be debated, and people should be, you know, called on expressing positions that I think are wrong, but I don't think they should be canceled for them, and their views on other subjects should not be canceled just because I think they did something that was wrong on one issue. But yet these same people are trying to bring up Jimmy's views on other issues to cancel him over Medicare for all, which I just thought was so sleazy, and it was all the more unfortunate given that I think he was right when it comes to what they were trying to cancel him for.
Right. Yeah, I know. I agree. And I mean, I agree. I don't think, I mean, I don't have the same cancellation. I have a lower bar or a higher threshold with cancellation. But yeah, why do you have to cancel someone? And you know, another person who went after him has who was a, well, I can't be hypocrite because I don't care if you platform someone, but particularly, but yeah, there's also the NATO Libya protecting talking points that I just don't think that if you have that in your background, you should be accusing other people of repeating talking points.
Absolutely. No,
Anna took a cheap dig at me. Wait. All right, come here. Tell me what happened. I was defending her, so tell me what happened. I'm going to have to cancel my own cancellation policy. And someone let me know, but I do want to ask you something, Aaron. I have to ask you this because you're going to have to disprove it.
Ugh.
Is it true? Does Max Blumenthal's father, Sidney Blumenthal, who works for Hillary Clinton, is this all a plot? Does he hate Hillary Clinton, which I could imagine hating her if you worked for her? But is Sidney Blumenthal actually an anti-imperialist who is funding the gray zone?
The answer is no. And I was surprised to see Nomiki make that allegation because it's totally false. The people who fund the gray zone, we have our patrons, you know, on Patreon, and people who donate, small donors. And then we have a couple of, like, you know, wealthier supporters who love our work and support us. And we don't release their names, although it's not that hard to figure out, to be honest with you. But we don't release their names because, you just looking at what happened to Max and Rania and Ben, we don't want to see them subjected to the same intimidation tactics. Where especially what Max has had to endure a lot of harassment for what he does. Because again, you take any major issue, and he's been out front from the very start. Syria, especially, his reporting on that has been stellar. He came along on it at a time when it was a lot harder to speak out, and he's taken a lot of abuse for it. He literally got arrested in a plot basically orchestrated by Venezuelan coup mongers. He spent time. So he gets, and he's had these insane lawsuits that I hope to speak about publicly one day when they're over, because it's just he's been subjected to so much insane stuff. So the short answer is no. Sidney Blumenthal does not fund the Gray Zone, and the people who do fund the Gray Zone, we don't release their names because we don't want them subjected to harassment. And people especially who have shilled for NATO should not be accusing other people of taking like at least
pushing talking points,
even forgetting her own background or her own previous position on that. Just if you're going to make an allegation, you should actually have facts. You should be able to support it, and that's not the case here. And it shouldn't be. And the same thing with saying that Jimmy took Assad money. Again, he took money from he took like $2,500, which for Jimmy Dore is relatively not that much money. He has a lot.
I know right.
He has a lot of fans. He has a lot of fans and a lot of people who support him.
Yeah, have you seen his sprawling estate? So pathetic.
Yes.
That article
it's
about
so
him.
crazy. Yeah. They doxed his house, a new house he bought, a relatively modest one. Like living in that area, right when he was pushing the force the vote thing. That was pretty. He was pretty upset about that, I think. So that sucked. But it just shows what happened to you.
Yeah.
When you do something brave, you'll get attacked.
Why don't we compare his place to Rachel Maddow's? Let's do a deep dive into Rachel Maddow's place, which has an outhouse with a jacuzzi in it where she can watch football, which, that's fine. But because I only care about the algorithm and clickbait, by the way, this is the thing that drives me fucking crazy. Okay. Just turning this onto myself. Someone said that apparently there was a comment made about who had the longest streams. Where was that? Which I'd like to think / I'm pretty sure that is a reference to me. No disrespect to you and your streams, Aaron, but I think it's probably I don't really do live streams. Yeah. And they're not that long. Yeah. For better, for worse. I mean, people could hate on me for that. Can the person who put that in the chat put it in again? I just want to address this. Like, I kind of think that people who say that, like, are projecting. Let me just say that as I say, please hit like. I do want you to like this fucking live stream, but let me just say something. Like, there are people who will disagree with you, and then I'll let you go, Aaron, because I think you're probably having demands made of you, / you have a life and aren't out, in the wilderness like me. But like, imagine this, guys. Imagine that I like streaming and I disagree with you, and my disagreement with you is not based on trying to make money, but I have an ideological difference with you. That's all I'm saying. There's a possibility for that. And when you assume that a person who disagrees with you is doing it because they're grifters, you're probably telling us a lot more about yourself than you are about us. Aaron disagrees. I'm just kidding. I'll let you go and say hi to the person. I sound really cryptic now. The person you're shaking your head at, and apologize to said person for me.
Karina, I'll tell you to say hi.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, so that's it. Yeah, I need a Discord chat really badly. Yeah, anyway. Oh, you weren't schwitzing or anything, but you know.
No, it's
right.
really hot where I am.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will have Aaron back on soon if he will agree, given the length of chats. But I just will say that again. I will say that I think this is true, which is that, again, when you go after me, Jimmy, Aaron, for having some kind of financial motive, when you go after Max Blumenthal because he's funded by his dad, which is very laughable because it just makes absolutely no sense. You're really revealing more about yourself than you are about us. I'll just say that, because it is foreign to you. The idea that people have ideological commitments is foreign to you. And there's a lot of projection, and not everyone lives by clickbait the way you do. I'm just going to say that. I stand by that. I don't know if Aaron does. I don't mean to get to spill tea all over anyone, but
no, I agree. But
I said it. Just saying.
Yeah. It's been weird to see these intra-left media fights and name calling and allegations of money funding. I mean, there is like this presumption of self-importance amongst all of us, when really it's like we're just people who talk online, and it's like, it's not as if we're like the vanguards of a left-wing movement and like what we fight over will decide the fate of the movement. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of it is really happening on Twitter and on YouTube. And so there are limits to this debate. But I do think what Jimmy did is really important. And it's the fact that there was so much hostility towards it and such kind of discomfort with challenging the progressives in Congress to do something with their power. There's totally room for a debate over tactics, but I was just not comfortable with like how viciously this was dismissed, especially after some people who ended up opposing Jimmy initially agreed with him. Like, yeah, that's Sam Cedar initially was like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should have a vote on Medicare for all. We should leverage a vote for, but then it became so personalized. And part of that is, I think, this weird, people have their views about Jimmy. And they also, I think, don't want to accept him into like the club because of his views on other issues where he's been 100% right, like imperialism and Russiagate. But also part of it, I think, is just people want to be friends. Like, had this idea of like being friends with AOC one day, and as if somehow maybe challenging her here would hurt the prospects of that friendship. That's kind of what I think part of it is about. This insular thing, and I just think that's unfortunate. We can still respect someone like AOC and appreciate all their accomplishments and what they've done, while still not losing sight of the fact that they are still politicians. And sometimes politicians' best moments come when they're pressured and they face some, grassroots mobilization. And I think what Jimmy ignited here is important. And I hope that it, that it keeps going, because I do think that having a vote on Medicare for all would be really powerful.
Yeah. And again, just disagree with the person, and you don't have to go into this weird Freudian analysis of it. It just makes you look like petty. And again, it's just so funny, because if the whole thing is that Jimmy Dore wants attention and clicks, like, follow your own narrative then and shut the fuck up about him. I say that with all due respect. Yeah. But anyway, well, thank you again so much, Aaron. You got a lot of positive comments in this. Yeah. I mean, this is, well, I didn't see Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush on CNN. Makes you think, huh? I mean, that is true. Like, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. But
yeah, what they did was they did not commit to voting for Pelosi.
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. Anyway, well, again, thank you so much, Aaron, and we will have you back on soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye, Katie.
Yeah, of course. That was great. Let's see. Some people in the chat are so secure in their views. I like it. Thank you for that, by the way, Ben Riley. Thank you for the chat. Sam Madison. These twice-a-week long streams have been a lifeline for lots of us amid the social isolation of this pandemic. Sniping Katie based on that is gross. Thank you, Sam. That's very nice. I mean, I I answer people's questions when they don't pay, in case people haven't noticed. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. Guys, stop saying such objectifying things about Aaron Mate, please. Yeah, the objectification of him, yeah. But yeah. No, my dad is not a Freudian psychiatrist at all. Not at all. Look, that's the other thing. I totally disagree with Jimmy on Sanders. But I don't have to pretend that he disagrees with me because he is a what's the word that people love? A grifter. I mean, I'm sorry. But okay, sure, I'll take this. Hola donkey. Katie, you're not being honest. If you study the door attacks on AOC on personal nasty, nothing to do with Mitt for all. Okay. And what? And so that means he's taking Assad money. That means that he's a grifter. Just what did you just prove? Even if I can see what you're saying, what's the big own there? How am I being dishonest? I will, for argument's sake, concede your point, which I don't really agree with. Why do you do a YouTube show? That's a good question. Why do I do a YouTube show? Well, not to be whatevs, but you could see, I guess I would suggest looking at Sam's comment, which isn't why I do it per se, but I think it does provide a nice community. Stephen Sheehan agrees, which is nice. That's fine. Look, I'm reading your chat. I have no money. I've been unemployed for about a decade. That's why I don't donate Patreon. Yeah, I mean, that's why I have a lot of the stuff that I post is not behind a paywall. I'm going to ignore the people saying I'm overly engaging in the chat because I'm not sure how I would see that if I weren't looking at the chat. So stop being hypocrites. What else? All right. If I skip your super chat, please tell me what it was. Oh, I get it. Okay. So Slobodaskin says, can you get Dan Cohen or Minar Adley from behind the headlines on the show, please? Sure. I'll do that. Hot Channel says, it's hilarious that the left media personalities making comments about force the vote and clickbait include screenshot of Jimmy for clickbait. It's shaking my head. I will say that. I will say that I co-sign that. Oh, sorry, I didn't read this when Aaron was on. I'm just here to simp for Aaron and his dad as usual. On a serious note, the best work on Syria was done by you in the Gray Zone, Aaron. Thank you. Agree. By the way, who is this weird loser who keeps calling me the hamburger? Okay, I'm not going to read it. You can pay me to read your chat, you fucking weird loser. I say that with nothing but respect. Let's see. Anything else? I will have Crystal Ball on. Let's see. I really do appreciate all the nice comments. Okay, tell me your super chat. I'm sorry if I missed it. Yeah, and if you want me to read your thing, then a book TV moment, sure. Hold on one second. Katie, I love you. Put super chat. Bong hits. I don't know what that is. All right, let's see. Let's see. Do I think there may be a single event that shakes the MSM narrative on Russiagate, Syria, or whatever the prevailing narrative is? I don't know, actually. Where's my cell phone, by the way? I want to make sure. Oh, it's right on my lap. I'm not sure. And also, what I will say is that total non sequitur. But I thought I have had Abby Martin on, and I would love to have her on again. And I will have Max Blumenthal on again. Do I have a New Year's resolution? More water. Good question, Teddy. What's the question from Teddy? Again, if I miss your super chat, just let me go. Let me know. Whoops. All right, let's see. What's Ted's idea? Was that the talking about the books behind me? But okay, yes, Irami, I gotta have him on. Okay, so what's Teddy's question? Is that the books behind me moment? I'm gonna assume that is. Where is it? Okay, Brian Wilkinson says, what is the strongest reason that anyone has come up with for not using a Pelosi vote? Just seems like most of the reasons are so bad. Makes you smart. What is that? Makes you, I don't know what the emoji that is. Wonder. Makes you wonder. All right, so here's some books behind me. Whoops. All right. And then I have to get off soon because I'm really trying to, one of my New Year's resolutions is better sleep hygiene. I hate that expression. It sounds like you're not hygienic if you, okay. Yeah, it's true. Okay. Here's a book. Here's my mom. Oh, this is a really cool one to go over, actually. You see this? It's called The War at Home. By Nora Eisenberg, who is my mother. She got a blurb from Vivian Gornick. And here's what's really cool. So this is a memoir. Oh, thank you. That's nice. Big Meanie says, not such a big meanie. I love the show. The longer the better. Jim Garrison says Jimmy rocks. Sleep hygiene equals sanity. Actually, I will do a Russian voice a second. Yeah, we can do a Lenin. Should we do a Lenin book club with Assad Hader? If he'll come back, he's being a stick in the mud. All right, look, you see this photo? This is my real grandmother. Because this is a memoir. That's my actual grandmother, who is a modern dancer. And then this here is my actual grandmother and my actual mom. Isn't that cool? So these are real photos of my family. Yeah, Memoirs of Mama. It's very good. Vivian Gornick liked it. Robert Olin Butler called it brilliant. Helen Iglesias, who is Matt Iglesias' grandmother, also liked it. Called it original, startling, and compelling. Yeah, my mom's very, very, very cool. So this is a great book that you should read. All right. Oh my Jesus. I really gotta start. I gotta get my arms together, a la Crystal Ball. Gotta start doing arm workouts. Let's see. Oh, did you guys even see this? Lenin, my hero. Oh my God. And I also have to find the photos of myself dancing Russian-Ukrainian folk dance. Okay. Lenin. I got Ladies Man by Richard Price. I don't know if that's problematic. Probably is. Oh, and then here's one of my mom's other books, which is Just the Way You Want Me. Got an award, as you can see. And it's about it's historical fiction, and it's about being someone whose father was blacklisted. Then I got the Chomsky Reader, Patricia Highsmith, Woody Guthrie, Pat Barker, who I really like. I really like her trilogy about World War I. That's not what this is. This is Liza's England. I got Marianne Williamson, A Politics of Love, The Spanish Republic and the Civil War by what's his first name? Yeah, Gabriel Jackson. I love the name Gabriel. It's a really great name. Middlesex, Kate Atkinson. Did I already say that? I love Kate Atkinson. She's really great. The Untried Case, Sacco and Vanzetti. I also have the Chomsky Reader. Chasing the Scream by Johan Hari, who I really have to have back on. Maybe I'll do a New Year's Day stream. What do you think about that? Radical Hamilton. I interviewed Christian Parenti. The Age of Extremes by Eric Hobsbawm, which is a great book. Philip Roth's Operation Shylock. A Collective Bargain by Jane McAlevey, who's been on the show. Henning Mankell, who I love. Patricia Highsmith, who I love. And Ian Karenina, which I read in high school, and I still have my notes in it. Patricia Highsmith's Strangers on a Train. Everyone knows that, but there were some really good books that are not as well known. Cry the Owl is so good. The Ripleys are good, but yeah, there are a lot of underrated ones. Yeah, so should I do a New Year's Day stream? By the way, I thought today was the 29th, not the 27th, and I told my friend, a family friend with whom I'm potting, I was like, why don't we come over for New Year's Eve? And I thought that was Tuesday night, but it's not. It's Thursday night, so I got to figure that out. Got to call that person up. But I thought, yeah, a New Year's Day stream would be nice to hang out. Maybe New Year's Eve. So New Year's Day is what? Is Friday and New Year's Eve is Thursday? Okay, let's see. Kimberly McNaught says, hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually realized I didn't really answer that question about the strongest reason. I should answer that question, which I highlighted, but is no longer visible for me. Hold on one second. What did I? Oh, no. Thank you, Brad. Everyone give Brad, Kelly, and Maria a shout out. Kelly, if you want, do you want to come on for a quick chat? Let me just answer these questions. No pressure if you're tired or you're not up for it. I want to get off fairly soon by 11. That will be that means I'll have had a short 4-hour stream. Oh, because I wanted long stream for the clicks. All right. The strongest reason that anyone has come up with for not using a Pelosi vote just seems like most of the reasons are so bad, makes you think. And yeah, I do think that the reasons I've seen are not like it can't, that it's bad. It's just that like we shouldn't force it. It's not going to solve everything. And what else? Then focusing on people's personalities, saying that they're not organizers, which is true, but not everything has to come from organizers, and let organizers take the reins and suggest something and we can support it. Anthony sent, thank you for your donation. Tulsi Anna Mosh, departures leaves void for civil liberty. Are they, where they're departing? Why? Sorry, I don't know this. I didn't know that. Where are they going? Kimberly McNaught would like a Russian accent birthday shout out, please. JB, have Sagar by himself to outline his views of the differences between right and left populism. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, and read your Thomas Frank, because he would argue that that right populism is not a thing. I mean, that's somewhat semantics, because you could say, well, they've co-opted it. Hold on one second. It certainly is not historically a thing. But I'm about to bring in Kelly, but before that, let me wish Kimberly McNutt, happy birthday. Shout out, okay? Yeah, I just can't stand, again, this like projection of fucking ulterior motives as opposed to ideological differences. Like, imagine someone having a disagreement. All right. Hey, Katie, your supper's waiting for you, don't you know? But our love is true. Okay, so let's. Someone asked a question about Lenin, and then we can do a. What's the Lenin book? It is Lenin by David Shub, a fascinating biography of the man who, from his grave, directs the strategy of the Kremlin today. I haven't read this, by the way. I think it's probably an anti-communist thing. Please bring Natalia so I can ask about Dilma. Okay, well. Yeah, is this some, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely anti-Lenin because on the back it says, Lenin is our teacher and we Soviet people are Lenin's disciples. Joseph Stalin in an interview with Harold Strassen, April 9, 1947. Yeah, I think this is like, we must understand our enemy. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Like the stream, subscribe, and see you Wednesday. All right. Bye.